You missed that, didn't you?
With authority.
There's an echo.
I think there might be an echo. I'll let Rex know, but he did say the sound was going to be a little different tonight. Because
Okay.
they're working on some
Hopefully
things.
that's not the case for at least the regular meeting.
Okay.
We got to figure that out. We can't have this.
Okay.
That's distracting.
Okay, I'm going to text him now.
Okay. Good afternoon. We'll call this regular board meeting for Wednesday, June 14th, 2023 to order at 3:31 p.m. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Director Bankus? Here. Director Daniels?
Present.
Director Jorgensen?
Here.
Director Loma?
Here.
Director Malpacum?
Here.
Director Nelson?
Here.
Director Ott?
Here.
So we have all board members in attendance, 6 of us in person, and Director Jenkins is joining us remotely. And I also want to welcome Secretary Bankus back to the in person to the regular board meeting. Last week you attended the work session in person. It's good to see you again, Director Bankus. Hope your recovery is going well.
Slowly.
Slowly but steadily, so
Yes,
as long
yes.
as. Please join me as we observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Director Ott, can you please make the motion to adopt the agenda?
Yes. I move that the Board of Education adopt the agenda as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The agenda has been adopted as presented. We do have executive session today for roughly 2 hours. Director Loma, can you please make the motion to enter into executive session?
I move the Board of Education convene into executive session to discuss negotiation per CRS 24-6-4024E, particular matter, superintendent contract, and personnel per CRS 24-6-4024F, particular matter, superintendent contract and evaluation.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. We will enter into executive session now and reconvene for the rest of our regular board meeting at approximately 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom. Thank you. Okay, good evening all. We are reconvening in public session and there is no need to modify the agenda after executive session. For those of you who did not see the start of the meeting, the agenda was adopted as presented. There is a little bit echo with the sound audio system today, and technology is working on it. They are replacing the sound audio system over the summer break. We just have to deal with it today. It's more a little bit more difficult for me because I'm hearing my own voice out there. And so I've got to process, and I'm sure board directors may feel a little bit the same problem out there. But we will manage, and hopefully by the time summer ends and we come back for the next meeting in August, all this would be figured out. It's good to see all of you here, even though it's we are in the middle of summer break. I'm glad that there are community members and parents still engaged with the district and the board meetings. And as always, as I share at the very beginning of the meeting, I request everyone in the room Please be respectful, civil, and courteous in all your interactions. Please follow the expected norm and professional decorum, and looking forward to a productive meeting. And before we get to the items on today's agenda, I do want to provide the community an update in the interest of full transparency. The board met in executive session for the past couple of hours. It ran a little bit longer than anticipated. Earlier this afternoon, the primary topic of discussion was Superintendent Gall's end of the year evaluation. As you are all aware, the board's one employee is the superintendent, and this board has consistently stressed the importance of evaluating the superintendent objectively based on his performance and the body of work throughout the year. Accountability is key to everything that we do, and it starts with the feedback we as a board provide the superintendent. And through this process, we are setting a culture of accountability within the district, a culture of high expectations, performance, and accountability, starting from the board dais to the superintendent, and from superintendent to the rest of the employees out there. And the idea behind our evaluation is part of it is judgmental, but it's not just to be the judgmental that is part of the process. For an effective evaluation, it should be used as a developmental tool. That was the expectation communicated to the board directors as we go through the process, provide constructive feedback that is going to help in the superintendent's growth. So we had a productive 2-hour conversation. We highlighted some of his celebrations and accomplishments, of which there are plenty, and the majority of the board agreed that there was plenty of celebrations and accomplishments. And there are also areas of focus and opportunities going forth. Each board member had a rubric that we collectively filled out, and we had Dr. Walt Cooper, who's from outside the district, who compiled all the 7 board member data together and presented a final report to the board. And the board processed that information at the executive session, and in turn, it falls on me, the board president and the vice president, to put together a summative document, which will be the final evaluation that I will present to the superintendent at some near point future in time, which captures the will of the board. So I'm pleased to say that the board took the evaluation process seriously, spent several hours reflecting on the supporting artifacts that Superintendent Gall provided, and I want to thank all the board members for the process itself, for taking the time and providing this feedback in helping Superintendent Gall also with the direction and the his opportunity to grow. Superintendent Gall did share with the board a document which essentially summarizes his body of work, the artifacts that he put together for the board. And during the conversation that I had with Superintendent Gall, I asked if that document could be shared publicly, and it will be shared publicly. This is his body of work that he presented to the board. The board used that as an evaluation tool. A lot of these documents have been shared publicly. There are links in the document, but that will be posted on board docs or on the board website for the public to see the work that he has put in over the last year. One other thing I do want to bring to the attention of the public is that in the personnel report today, there is the superintendent contract, which the board will be approving. This is just to refresh the public on this conversation. Initially, Superintendent Gall came on a 1-year contract, and the board evaluated him in the middle of the year and extended his contract for the additional 3 years. Now, that contract will be officially adopted by the board as a consent item, if that is the will of the board, later this evening. We also talked collectively as a board that we need to ensure that the superintendent's contract is commensurate with what surrounding school districts are paying their superintendent. The board takes its fiscal responsibility seriously. We are responsible stewards of taxpayers' dollars. As we ironed out the details of his contract, his one-year contract saved the district about $52,000 compared to our previous superintendent contract, and even his renewed 3-year contract, which the board is adopting today, saves the district approximately $28,000 per year compared to the previous contract. That is with all the inflation increase that has taken place over the past couple of years. I also want to thank Superintendent Gall for his flexibility as we worked out this contract in the middle of the year. It was a really productive and quick conversation. Superintendent Gall expressed complete buy-in and into where the district was headed. He wanted to be here, so he wanted to ensure that the work that we have started is seen to fruition, and we accomplish the board priorities that are behind me. So there will be a modification to his contract where the board, considering that we provided all our employees one-time 4% bonus last year, and based on his evaluation that took place, the board feels comfortable in providing him a one-time non-recurring supplemental compensation that the amount will be $8,000 that we will provide at the end of the year. So I am sharing all that in complete transparency, something that previous boards haven't done as far as in the time that I've sat on the board, but I want to make sure that our community, with all eyes on the budget, I want to be transparent with the community. So that is the update from the board as far as the superintendent evaluation goes. So thank you. And we will move on to the other items on the agenda. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
So we don't have any students tonight, so I'm going to ask in honor of Memorial Day, which was in between our last meeting, if I can get the veterans to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Do we have any veterans in the audience?
Any veterans in the audience?
I know we have a couple. If the vets could come forward and
please,
join
come
me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Any vets?
Victoria.
There we go.
Okay.
Come on, Lyman. All right, Lyman, on your cue.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and thanks. Yeah, well, we see the American flag up there too. And thank you for all the veterans for your service to this country. Moving on, Superintendent's report.
Okay, so I'm out of sync here because the superintendent's report is normally school celebrations and kids crawling all over the place, and we are out of school, kind of. So I'll go through a couple of things real quick. The bulk of what we want to talk about today is feedback from our academic support plan, and that team is here to brief it. So I will be brief, be brilliant, and be done. Those are the 3 B's of any good briefing. So let's move forward here. I got to turn it on, right? There we go. I want to give a big shout out to all the folks that helped coordinate the One Plan symposiums. We finished our school year. Real big shout out to our SACs, our Ed Insight, our CAO office, and our schools. I asked them all to nominate one school per area superintendent that did extraordinary work, and you can see them all highlighted here. Fremont, Rogers, Swigert, Jackson, and Bijou. We did things just a little bit differently this year. We kind of aligned ourselves a little bit more to the CDE school improvement plan to have a head start on where we'll be at the beginning of the year. And we also did some step back opportunities to do some deep data dives on some of our schools that were a little lower performing on the priority list. And that really set us up for success. We had 3 full days of both on-site and centralized opportunities for us to be able to dig in and create really robust plans on our top two major improvement strategies, which of course is continuing best first instruction and developing out our community engagement. And so those should be two lanes that you could see most of the things that we've talked about this year connecting back to. And I can say it was just a real heartwarming and heartfelt opportunity to be there as a school leader and see our schools and our central office team and our community represented through the SAC in partnership so strongly at the end of what is always a very long year. So appreciative to them. I'm going to switch over now to school is not out of session. We are in full swing for Summer Bridge. I had a good chance to visit some schools today, and we're really just finding a great way to bring fun back in to learning. And so even as I asked staff members, I said, thank you for participating in Summer Bridge. I know it's hard at the end of the school year. And they said, well, it's actually nice because it's a little bit different. And so there's three things I want to emphasize here. First of all, our participation has been phenomenal. We enrolled over 2,100 students this year in Summer Bridge. Today's attendance was 1985. That's a 94% attendance rate on June 14th, which is halfway through. If we could have 94 attendance rate in our average daily attendance rate as a school district, I can promise you that our students will be achieving stronger and higher. Focused on here is a combination school. We're doing some work at Queen Palmer this year, so we moved Queen Palmer in to Rogers Elementary School. And we have over 131 students enrolled in a combination school setting between Rogers and Queen Palmer. That's collectively about 35 or 40% of their total population between those two schools. That tells you that the demand is strong and that the experience is enjoyable. You can see them there up at a field trip at the Garden of the Gods and then in a little bit of a reading session. We're not just at elementary schools. This is combined Jenkins and Swigert. And what I really want folks to be able to see here, the other part about making learning fun is getting kids that chance to be hands-on. We know that competency-based demonstration and knowledge is the way that our kids will express the things that they learned more consistently and more enthusiastically than sitting down in front of a state-mandated test. And so watching students there, you can particularly see the kids building the roller coaster on the left, is a real great chance for them to be engaged in the learning that they're doing. And we're also at high schools, so there's a lot of credit recovery that's happening in high schools, but we're also taking advantage of the other part of Summer Bridge, which is small class sizes. Our teachers are getting the chance to engage not just one-on-one to turn a student back around to their desk, but really get deep down in and understand what the learning standard is for them to be able to accelerate their learning during this 4-week period. This is Doherty High School, and this is a pre-AP class where students were working on a multi-paragraph argumentative essay. Okay, I'm going to ask our team on the academic support plan to come forward, and Doug, you get the driver here.
Give that to Patrick.
Give it back. I don't give anything to Patrick.
All right, well, thanks so much for having us back. We're excited to provide an update on the academic support plan. And we can crawl around if you want kids in the audience. But yeah, we're happy to be back. We were here a few months ago, about 6 weeks ago, I think it was, to introduce the project. And we're going to share what we've heard and seen so far. So what today is going to be is really what we've heard from the community, what we've heard from district staff, what we've seen through our own observations in this early stage of the project, some quick sort of data snapshots, and then more importantly, talk about what's coming next.
So, before you start, yeah, okay, there you go.
So I'll just start.
Introduce yourself,
Yeah.
that's all I was going to say, and you have it there.
I'm Patrick Davis. We're with Perkins Eastman, which is a global design and planning firm.
Hi, I'm Josh Jackson, a planner with Perkins Eastman.
And hi, I'm Doug Abernethy with RTA Architects.
Great. Turn to Josh.
So just to sort of reintroduce everyone to the academic support plan and highlight some of the foundational work that the district has already done, which is undergirding it. The academic support plan is really fundamentally about aligning the plans for facilities with the plans for school programs. That means we're incorporating a lot of the bricks and mortar information that was collected in the facilities master plan, the assessments of site safety and security that was done as part of the crime prevention through environmental design assessment, And of course, it's also incorporating all of the programmatic plans from the academic master plan. And really, this academic support plan is bringing all this information together and charting a roadmap forward. What that means in terms of planning is that it's going to be identifying facility needs in terms of program support. So it's going to be looking at the programmatic and academic needs and translating those needs into projects for facilities. A big part of this project is going to be incorporating large amounts of information, summarizing it, and visualizing it so that the public and decision makers like yourselves can understand what's going into it and why certain recommendations are being made. At the end of this process, we will be providing 3 different potential implementation scenarios for different funding levels so that through the process of scenario planning, you guys can make informed decisions about how to proceed. In terms of scheduling, this academic support plan project is fitting into a series of longer timeline efforts that I've already mentioned. What we're going to be really doing now is we're going back on the sites and doing some evaluation of sites in terms of something we call educational adequacy, which is really transcending and going above and beyond the sort of bricks and mortar assessments. We'll also be doing some additional community engagement with the public in the fall. And then when we take all this information and develop those scenarios, we'll be coming back to you guys a little later in the fall and sharing that information so that you can make a decision on a final plan moving forward.
So one of the things we've been doing over the past few weeks and months at this point is listening. That's really been our sort of charge for the past 6 weeks, listening to the initial conversation we had with you, community members, like I mentioned, district staff, and we've started to boil the sort of key themes that have come out of those conversations and also building on the great work that started with the academic master plan. So we've started to put some sort of key ideas and principles on paper to start chewing and starting to think about how these can help shape and frame our work. The top ones you'll probably recognize from the academic master plan, which is thinking about quality neighborhood schools, aligning distinctive pathway programs, also expanding career and college program options for students, but then also an overarching emphasis on equitable access for students across the district. Beyond that, we've started to, like I said, hear from a lot of different stakeholders and started to hear some key themes that have come out of those conversations. And we're just introducing these, what we're calling draft ideas. These are not final sort of guiding principles, but these are just initial thoughts on how we're thinking about the work based on initial rounds of conversations. One is we want this plan to spark inspiration and creativity. There's a lot of amazing things happening in the classrooms. We want this to be a real spark to highlight those things, but also identify how they can advance and move to the next phase of how instruction can be delivered. We want to make sure we're creating welcoming and safe environments, as you'll see from some of the survey responses, which we'll share here in a second. Safety is a priority for the community members, so thinking about how we're making sure our campuses are safe. There's a lot of research that shows that students perform better in the classroom when they feel safe and welcome in an environment. So we want to make sure our facilities are supporting that, and the same thing is true with staff. We want to make sure we're using the district resources responsibly. This is not an easy task. You guys have the charge to make sure you're using taxpayer money effectively and responsibly. So we want to make sure we're implementing and making recommendations in a very fiscally responsible way, but an effective way too. So we're making and smart decisions around projects to really increase and improve the learning environments for students. And then, a lot of these are actually showing up in the board principles and priorities I'm seeing, but another key one is engagement. And we've started that process, but we're going to continue that, making sure that people understand, A, what we're doing, but also have a voice in the process so we understand the priorities, the opportunities, and some of the challenges that district residents are facing so that we can shape the plan around the needs of the school communities. So those are sort of the key themes that have come out. And again, these are draft. We're not asking for a stamp of approval tonight. We're just sort of getting some key thoughts on the paper tonight based on what we've heard so far. To get to that, we've done a lot of engagement, which is really inspiring. So I think actually during our last time we were here 6 weeks ago, an email went out with a survey link to family members and folks that are signed up for the distribution list. And right away, we started to get a really great response from community members and parents and guardians and staff members. We have over 380 responses to our survey, which is fantastic. Quite frankly, at this stage in the project, we don't typically see that kind of response rate, which shows us parents and community members are engaged, which is really the first and most important part of this process. Make sure people feel like they're part of the process, they're engaged and understanding and want to know more. But key to that is making sure we get good distribution of responses. So there's a good distribution of faculty and staff. So we're hearing the teacher voice, the staff in the schools. We're also hearing the parent and guardian voice. And then we have some voices from the broader community as well. And then one really important thing, we've heard from every single school. So one of the questions in the survey is, which school do you represent or do you send your kid to? We've heard a response from every single school. And I think 98% of the 98% of the schools have over 3 responses. Most have many more than that. So we're getting a good distribution of responses so that we're getting a good distribution of voice from all stakeholders in the district. So this is fantastic. I mean, I'll be honest, quite frankly, we often hear from, small pockets of the district that are vocal, and maybe there's 4 or 5 schools represented in overwhelming numbers. Seeing this kind of distribution across all schools is really inspiring for us and really helps us get a good lay of the land and understand the priorities of the district. So one of the questions we asked the survey respondents to fill out was just to start prioritizing some of these sort of key themes. So we asked them to rank a number of different ideas or sort of potential interventions, and you're seeing the results of that. So they're ranked in terms of order. So the more red the color is, the more people that rank that as a first or second or third choice. So you can see that staff satisfaction was really high on the list, but closely followed by safety and security. So again, that idea of creating these safe and welcoming environments is really top of mind for both staff and students, and also community members and parents and guardians. But also making sure that we're supporting those programs and pathways that you all have spent so much time talking about in the academic master plan. We want to make sure that these facilities are intentionally supporting those programs. So whether it's an exploration program or a STEAM program, not just saying that, but that the facility should identify and support those programs as well. And people are acknowledging that. As you'll see later, there's also an acknowledgement that there's a lot of older buildings in the portfolio. So making sure that the buildings are maintained and repaired is also a priority. You'll see more of that later in the presentation. So on top of the online survey, we had 3 in-person community events across the district, and then 1 virtual. So we had 4 opportunities for folks to come. And actually, some of you joined us in some of the meetings, which was fantastic. And we had some really great conversation at those sessions. So these are just representative comments. This is not an exhaustive list at all. But a lot of folks in the survey and in the person, so they really valued the diversity in D11, and that's something that really kept them in the district and really made them proud to be a D11 parent. They wanted to make sure that we're not thinking traditionally. So one of the comments was, why are we so traditional? Kids are learning different these days. As I mentioned, you'll see a slide showing the age of your buildings. Many of the buildings were built when we were doing lecture style instruction, and quite frankly, a lot of classrooms are not doing that now, and classrooms are a lot more dynamic, which often require different design interventions and furniture and things like that. There was a big emphasis on students being prioritized in this process, so making sure that their needs are front and center when we go through this process. So all the decisions we're making should be grounded in making sure that students are sort of top of mind, and we're accounting and recognizing their achievement. We also heard in the open town hall comments, don't be afraid to make big decisions. Again, going back to some of the aging buildings, some folks thought we need to make some big, bold decisions for that spark. There was a focus on some of the CTE spaces. We want to make sure those spaces have what they need to make sure the students have a really rigorous environment that prepares them for the future. Inclusion was a big part of both the online and in-person comments, and making sure that all students have access to the spaces they need, whether they're in special ed program or English language learner, make sure that all of our students are supported. And then obviously technology. We need to make sure as we're moving into the future, you all have done a lot of great work in technology with your bandwidth upgrades and things like instructional technology, but obviously continuing to look forward about how can the buildings support technology interventions and improvements in the future. So again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is a representative list of some of the feedback we heard.
And I just want to go back 1 second, briefly interject for folks here or following elsewhere that the survey is still active, and you can use the QR tag or link in the right-hand side of this slide to go complete a survey.
What we've seen so far, both meeting with all the facilities, with the team internal to D11 and the community, is so strong school cultures across the district based on the different leaders that are at different schools, and we have a leader here tonight, Queen Palmer, that's with us. But there was some excitement when we were talking with both staff internally and also externally about the academic master plan and how that's going to affect learning, as Patrick has talked about before. We saw a lot of different, as we toured schools and as we talked to people, how they're making the schools work for them and their communities right now and how they're delivering instruction. And we looked at that as a real opportunity based on what we're talking about with the academic master plan, right, and the alignment and how we're going to make that work. As we've talked before, Adams Elementary is a great example of sort of reimagining an existing school and delivering high-quality instruction in a building with a facelift and sort of an extreme makeover, and how that's changed both the view of that school and how learning is occurring at that school. And it integrates all those things that sort of Patrick has talked about both tonight and in the past. So we're getting really good feedback from that perspective. So let's go back to the next. And so some of the other things that we've seen is that learning happens all over in schools. And so as you can see in that lower left-hand corner, even when you don't plan for learning to happen in certain places, we have students learning all over the place. We really want to create an alignment between facilities and academic master plan so that we're accommodating those students that right now are sitting on floors and in hallways to learn and give them the appropriate environments to do that. And like I said, they're making the best of those situations throughout the district, whether it's the age of the building, very well maintained, a very strategic plan by the district to maintain those facilities and update them, but not necessarily, some of those things are hard to overcome. So just because of age of facility, some of the furniture, some of the other things that are available, whether it's availability to natural light, like Patrick has talked about before, we don't have some of those aspects that really sort of support learning today like we'd like to see. So there were other buildings, as we've talked about before, where we've underutilized spaces and equipment. When we have those spaces, sometimes those are opportunities for us to reinvent or reimagine those spaces with that alignment. I think that's probably it. Patrick, anything to add?
I just want to add one more thing on the bottom right. We'd love to talk about bathrooms. But we had a great opportunity to meet with the folks that ran some surveys with middle school students. And the key comment that actually came out of those surveys was students don't feel safe in bathrooms. That's where bullying is happening. That's where middle school students, that's an awkward age in general. But they really commented on the safety in the bathrooms. They even comment, you can actually see in this picture, the lack of partitions between urinals, things like that, where they don't feel they have the privacy. So it really, this picture I think encapsulates a lot of the feedback we heard from middle school students. We do plan to do more student engagement when we come back in the fall. The district had done some great work around that engagement. We actually pull some of that data, but I just wanted to highlight, as much as we don't like to talk about bathrooms, we really don't. But it was really sort of encapsulates that conversation. It's really, I think, again, with the students, it's sort of the heart of what we're doing here. We wanted to be responsive and show that picture to represent their comments in that session.
So the next phase of this, as Patrick mentioned and Josh both mentioned this, is the educational adequacy assessment. So we gathered about 10,000 data points as we talked to you and the board when we were doing the safety and security assessment. We're gonna capture about another 200 per building as part of the educational adequacy. That work actually will start next week and it will run through the middle of July. And so we have a team of about 10 to 12 people in our office that we're doing the we're doing the safety and security, that are gonna be revisiting all of the schools based on the criteria that Perkins and Eastman has. And so that get ready to start. And so we'll have some of that data later at the end of the summer. And then when we come back at the fall, we'll have some really good data that we'll share with you guys when we come back in August.
And so, speaking of data, there's a lot of data that we are collecting right now, summarizing and organizing, but wanted to sort of briefly provide some examples of the kinds of quantitative analyses that we'd like to dive into through this work. And this particular graphic is an overlay of 2 data points, the demographic assessment from Western Demographics and some of the facility information from the facilities master plan. And really it's comparing the total capacity, which is a metric using loading standards and the number of available rooms, with enrollment, which is the butts and seats that you have in your classrooms. And what we see is that the utilization numbers may be a little bit sobering. There are a lot more seats than there are the students to fill them. And we can slice and dice this data a few different ways. This brief analysis right here is looking by grade level, and you can see that there's a 11% enrollment decline between 5th and 6th grade. Next slide. But we can also look at it more geographically. So this is the same data points, but summarized by quadrant. And you can see some different stories being told here in terms of an overlay of enrollment with capacity to generate these utilization figures, which are really important when we think about the kind of efficient and effective spending that Patrick mentioned earlier. And then building age has come up a few times in this conversation, and this kind of diagnostic chart, as we call it, where we're trying to figure out what the story is, shows that the bulk of your building stock, in terms of square footage, was constructed in the middle of the century. And these buildings, to be perfectly frank, have a lot of issues. They were mass manufactured, they have outdated design elements, and in many cases have very high replacement costs, modernization costs compared to their modernization. You guys also have a number of really special historic buildings, which we want to consider differently. In many cases in that era, they were built to last, and you guys have done a great job adapting and renovating them over the years. And then you also have a number of newer structures, and I use newer cautiously. The 1990s, I shudder to think, were a little while ago at this point. So there are a different set of needs in these newer buildings because they are still not exactly brand new. So looking at how to make strategic and targeted updates in these buildings may be things that yield really beneficial outcomes with a minimal, good bang for your buck is what I'm trying to say. So this is just, again, some examples of the types of data analysis that we'll be doing. There's going to be a lot more of this in the coming months.
One thing I just want to add, I mean, Josh mentioned the enrollment stuff might be sobering. I think the other way to think about it is, and like we talked about during the last board session with the demographer, is, what are the different sparks that we can do to actually turn that narrative around, right? So where are we seeing decline? Where do we need to make strategic investments? Programmatic ideas. I think this is an opportunity for us to actually think maybe differently about what's working at some schools, what's not, and how does this plan actually help change that narrative around. So, we're not trying to be doom and gloom here, but it's actually an opportunity. I don't want to sound like a real estate salesperson, but it is an opportunity for us to think differently. And actually getting down into the nuance of the data allows us to be a little more targeted in terms of where do we make those improvements, not just thinking at the district, but actually thinking geographically and school level. So I want to spin that a little bit, that we can actually take this as an opportunity to think differently about the future. So Josh mentioned we're going to be developing 3 different scenarios as part of this. And the way we're sort of thinking and bucketing them in our head is, scenario 1 is sort of what are the essential needs to sort of keep students in the building, keep them safe. You guys are doing a great job. One of our highlights was when you're walking in the buildings, they feel safe and well maintained. They might be outdated, but the staff that are working on the buildings are doing a great job. It's obviously hard to working on buildings in the 50s and keeping them looking safe and welcoming and clean. They're doing a fantastic job. But as Josh mentioned, buildings of that age, a lot of things are failing, and they got to keep up the replacements of HVAC and roofs and all of those things. So the first one is, what are the things that we need to do to sort of keep the doors open and keep students safe in the learning environments? The next level phase is how do we start incorporating learning environment improvements? So that first one is sort of that baseline, how do we keep things functioning? With a little bit sort of more, we can start thinking about how do we turn those 1950s classrooms into a more modern learning environment in a more targeted way. We can't do it across every single building in this sort of scenario, but like where are the needs the greatest across the district so that we can make targeted investments, whether they're pathway program investments or they're pre-K investments, whatever they are. We want to make sure in this phase we're talking about improving the learning environments on top of the sort of essential improvements. And then the transformative phase or scenario is, if we're thinking big picture, I'll just be honest, big dollars, what are the things that we need to do across the entire district to get them up to a 21st century standard? So you can obviously put the pieces together in your head, but we're trying to build on each of the different scenarios. So baseline, targeted improvements for learning environments, and then a much larger scale investment to improve learning environments and giving students a 21st century learning environment. I think we got one more, then obviously we'll take questions. But just next steps, as we mentioned, we're going to do the educational adequacy assessments. We're going to continue the data analysis. We've already got a lot of data that we're crunching in the background. We're going to be actually developing these scenarios, so not just sort of identifying what they are, but how do we potentially fit and identify projects within each of the buckets. We're going to do fall engagement, as I mentioned, with the communities, but also find time with students to hear directly from them. They're the end user in the facilities. We want to make sure we're hearing their priorities. And then we'll be drafting the plan, as you saw in the timeline. It's a lot more complicated than a few bullets on a slide, but that's where we are today. So I think that's our last slide, and happy to take questions if we have time. I know you guys have a lot on your agenda, so.
Thank you. Thank you. Board members, you heard the report that they provided us. By the way, is the audience able to hear us and understand what's going on? Just give me a thumbs up if you do. Okay, great. I was receiving some text messages. There was some echo that was going on. We just have to manage with it. But any comments, questions, feedback that you want to provide in the work that is being completed? Thank you. And I was there at one of those public meetings listening to the feedback that was provided, and there was good engagement out there, even though it's kind of the end of the school year and people are looking forward to the summer and stuff. So hopefully you can continue on. That survey link is still out there. Director Art.
Oh, sorry, I thought another director had beat me to it. Just page 9 of the slides, and we don't have to go back there, but it talked about what people would, it was a ranking of what they would like. Coming from the ideal of having buildings that have lower maintenance and are modernized and that could even pay off in the long run, given the way energy is moving and advancing. It seems to me like it doesn't have to be one excludes the other, right? And I wonder sometimes if that is communicated well enough. Absolutely, staff satisfaction, it should, in theory, be mostly the same as child satisfaction, but that's not even on there, so maybe it's just people. But an understanding that all can be the same, or all can be included.
Yeah, that's a very fair comment, and you're right. I think the building repairs and the fiscal responsibility, and we're thinking sort of at a global district-wide scale, those things tend to fall down, but I think you're right, it's how you communicate, because if you do those, improvements and you get if you do a capital project, you actually get some operational savings, which you can actually reinvest in the classroom and actually make more efficient systems. We had a great meeting with the group that's running your energy assessment project, so we're actually combining some of that work. So they've done a lot of assessments on consumption, so the utility consumption across every campus. So a lot of that work's actually, we didn't mention it here, but a lot of that's actually getting folded in here too. So when you replace windows, here's the potential energy savings you can get from that, and then potentially reinvest in more projects or more laptops or more FTEs, all of these things that we want to actually go into the classroom and not pay utility bills or replacement of outdated HVAC systems. But you're right, I think we probably could do a better job communicating that, and I think it's a point well taken.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe a yes and as part of the solutions, right? So in each of these, I think there'll be a yes and where we can talk probably even more about some of those bullet point items.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions at this point in time? Director Daniels, go ahead.
No, I'd like the board directors to finish before I ask.
Director Daniels.
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. I absolutely am excited for what we could have coming forward. And when I looked, I can't remember the numbers of the slide. It was the students in the space with the teacher, I love those designs, but what I've noticed is there's a bucket that goes in the tower to have the kids' headsets and papers and notebooks. And then when they bring them out, they're all over the floor. And they become a little bit difficult to navigate around walking and talking and trying to, so is there a better solution for how to contain all of that stuff that happens once they take the buckets out and they're having to be on the floor? Some teachers do the backpack thing on the chair, but they eventually break apart. So I'm just curious in terms of technology and where we are with updating that and not having it look so.
Well, I was going to say, we're kind of progressing away from a lot of paper and moving toward, I mean, you guys already do
Yeah.
mostly one-to-one in the classroom, which will get rid of some of that,
Okay,
that
okay.
clutter. I think that's sort of a good first step, but I think there's a lot of storage issues in schools often. I don't think we've ever met a teacher that says they have enough storage. So I think finding creative ways to do storage is important.
Yeah.
We're never going to be in a paperless environment. I don't think we ever should. I still buy books. But I think there's sort of a natural sort of phasing out of a lot of paper, which will help some of that, but I think storage is another solution. A lot of folks do the under-the-desk storage.
There are these towers where they stick
Yeah.
25 bins
Yeah.
inside of, and the kids have to pull them out and go back to their desk. And I like the idea of paperless, but we have a lot of people that don't like that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see
And I
how
think
it
there's a lot of
will work.
value in hands-on learning too. So a lot of those are actually grouped in terms of, the manipulatives are grouped in terms of different types of tactile instruction. So they are organized that way. But, I think there's, we can put our heads together to find creative storage solutions, but some of it comes down to classroom management too.
We were here at the board meeting a couple of months ago, and we're talking about Montessori and how they learn Montessori versus traditional. And so sometimes learning needs to be really messy, right? And there are times where it needs to be clean and focused, right? And providing the right tools and equipment so that they can adapt quickly is really one of the keys. And it's sort of driven by the culture of the school and the community, and it'll change over time. So we want to find the right resources to be adaptable, right?
Yeah.
Just like you described, right? You want to be able to do both. We got to find those right tools, and there's lots of them out there.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was, thank you.
Director Nelson.
I just wanted to ask how long the survey will be available.
I don't know that we've defined an end date. Obviously, with summer, we want to leave it open through summer. I know people aren't as engaged with their computers, so
Right.
leave it probably through the fall. And then we're actually going to
Okay.
have another round of engagement and surveys with different types of questions when folks come back. So we'll leave this one through the early start of the fall.
Okay.
And then we'll introduce a new survey, which will have different types of questions as we get into strategies and different ideas.
Okay.
So-
That's good. Otherwise, I was going to just propose that the superintendent think about sending out another email to families reminding them. You can decide.
We'll do another large blast as
Okay.
we come back to school, particularly on the live engagements.
Okay.
We had good participation, but May's tough.
Yes.
A lot of people are tired, and we appreciate the 200-plus inputs that we had, and we're very impressed that every school was responsive, particularly as they have a vested interest here.
Right, yeah. And I also was just going to throw out the idea of posting it somewhere on our homepage of the website. I don't think I see it there already, but maybe people are going to the website as they're looking to sign up for school this summer and would fill it out then. So just an idea there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other further comments or questions, thank you for the update that you guys provided to the board.
I have one more.
Okay.
Could you all just summarize, the elephant in the room is how do you then pay for this? And so what are like the low, medium, and high ways that you've seen districts? Some districts, do rolling MLOs, some use COPs, some wait for bonds. And, we're coming off of a failed bond initiative. So we're very anxious on how it is that we engage to ask our community for funds if we need to ask them. So just briefly, kind of a low, medium, high.
Yeah, so there's multiple ways that the districts, we've had we've had some preliminary information, and working across the districts or across the state for 20 years, districts have to do it differently depending on their valuation, support from the local school district, what their current tax rates are from a bond. So there's certificates of participation, which are, think of them somewhat like a loan. So the district would use operational funds to basically get a loan to be able to do improvements that need to be done across the district. The districts will use those in different ways. So Adams Elementary, for instance, there was a certificate of participation in order to go from the smaller scope of work that was at Adams Elementary to a larger scope of work to make turn that school from sort of just do the functional needs as part of take care of the functional deferred maintenance needs as opposed to address the educational 21st century. So that's one of the reasons we refer to Adams Elementary as a good example of that. So mill levy overrides, of course, the district has them. There's a certain amount of funds, about $17 million right now, that are set aside to deal with facilities right now. Those funds are used, to take care of deferred maintenance, but also could be used. Some of that funding could be used in order to address a COP if you want to do a certificate of participation. Of course, what we see a lot of is general obligation bonds, so a bond that a district would pass. And so depending on where you are in the state and depending on what you do, you look at general obligation bonds as a long-term strategy for a district. And a lot of the success stories that you see across the state that you see is that they will create a long-term plan like we're talking about, and then the implementation strategy will be over a multiple year process. So it's not a singular ask, it's a long-term strategy for a district to think about, right? So it's, of course, the board's decision to do that, but it doesn't have to be a 4-year plan or a 2-year plan for a bond. It may be a 12-year plan or a 16-year plan, but a plan is key in that. And there are other ways financially, as Superintendent Gall's talking about, in order to structure that to make those things happen for your district.
Perfect, thank you.
I'll just add one more thing. I think the financial side is fantastic, but we also need to make sure people understand the why of why we want to do this. So the communication of the importance of the work and the types of things that would go into, whether it's a COP or a bond or whatever it is, I think the understanding of the why it's needed and then what's going to happen potentially with these things is critical. So part of our job is to both strategize how the different funding options could be implemented, but also communicate the needs and the why across the district. So just want to make sure we're not losing sight of that as well.
And those things are still under discussion, and we're in this early planning phase. And so there are no preconceived notions about outcomes at this point. It's really about alignment, as Superintendent asked for, alignment to the academic master plan. Those parts will come later through discussions, both in the community and, of course, with the board and the leadership of the district.
Director Nelson.
I just want to say that the work you are doing, we're very appreciative because should the board choose to go for a bond in the future, this will help us with that communication piece and getting the community to understand the need and the why, like you said. So I'm really grateful that you are tying in the security audit piece and also the energy efficiency audit and pulling everything together, especially with the academic master plan. I mean, that's absolutely what needs to be happening. So thank you guys for tying all those pieces together, and I'm excited about the outcome that you guys are going to present to us, the possibilities. So
Great,
thank you.
Thank you. I will also just say it's not just us. The team at D11 has been fantastic, and really they're the ones that shape the scope of the project, so they deserve a lot of the credit, whether it's Jennifer and Hannah and Superintendent Gall. So
Great.
You got a lot of great people here.
Thank you, D11 team.
So maybe this question is for you, or I don't know if it is for Superintendent Gall. If the board is to consider something like certificates of participation, is there some kind of guidance that you can provide as far as how much we can leverage? And
I've taken a couple of early meetings, and so we'll bring that to the board in early August in a work session. We wanted to get this out as part of the process. We promised was we would do a demographer study, we would restart an academic support plan, and then we would engage on where is the board, so we can create a couple options for the board to understand. How do you eat that? How do we get through this piece? How much can we leverage that we have ourselves? How much can we partner with others? How much do we ask our community, and the different ways to ask our community? There are new legislative, what's the name of the
Debt-free, levy override?
Yes, the debt-free. There are new vehicles that we need to brief the board on that have come forward for us to learn from other districts that have found very regular ways that they're partnered with their community for what, for all intents and purposes, is a recapitalization of, if you look at that distribution, of at least a 50-year-old on average district. So when we think about the 15 to 20 years it takes to recapitalize that district, our district, that puts us into nearly 2050. So we could be sitting on an average age of our predominance of square footage at 100 years old. So we have to start to figure out how to get through that. I know that we're coming off a failed bond, but this is a new board with a new administration that is showing direct accountability to the constituents that we think, particularly when we think about the timing of the next couple elections, could be advantageous. So we'll come in one of the first work sessions in August with a couple of those funding options.
Okay, thank you. We look forward to that conversation. Again, thank you for the presentation that you made. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yes. Are you done with your superintendent's report?
I am. I'm just asking, do we think it's better that we turn off all the mics so the people in the audience can hear? And if that means we impact streaming, we impact streaming.
Well, Rex told us downstairs that they could just turn it off up here, but we still talk into the mics for the stream.
Great, that sounds even better, because I want to be respectful of the audience, the folks who show up first and foremost.
Okay.
I don't know if you can communicate to Rex.
He can, he's watching.
Yeah, he's watching. So what that means is when you speak louder, so that the rest of them in the room can also hear.
Yeah, both.
I thought it was speak softly and carry a big.
But for the
Now it's
audience.
Speak loudly and carry a carry.
For the audience out here, you need to speak louder so they can understand. Okay, thank you. Moving on to public comments. We do have a few public comments, Melissa?
We do.
Yes. So quickly going over the board protocol. Thank you. Board meetings are primarily business meetings for the orderly and efficient conduct of the business of the district. So please be respectful of everyone, board members, staff, audience, and maintain the expected professional decorum in the boardroom. It is preferred that you do not single out any one person in your comments, but if you choose to do so, the expectations are that you will address them respectfully. That is, that's the minimum expectation that we have. Each of you have 3 minutes for your comment. A clock will be displayed on the screen to help you through that. So please monitor the clock and get through your comments in 3 minutes. And if you want to show support or solidarity to a speaker, please stand as the speaker is talking or use a silent applause. Lastly, the statements made by the public do not reflect the views of the board or the district. With that, the first is an action item comment from Cheryl Saylor.
Good evening, Superintendent Gall, board members, and community. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, bless this meeting and all in attendance. Keep us all focused on the top priority here, the excellent education of our children. We thank you for a group of board members who believe in that and act accordingly. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm going to share some thoughts from one of our District 11 teachers of U.S. history and U.S. government who is unable to be here tonight. This is in regard to the recent statement by the CEA stating that capitalism is bad, and this teacher is requesting that the board publicly denounce that position, and I agree. This teacher says, "It saddens me a great deal to know the State Teachers Union has made a statement so ridiculous and divisive as this recent one, authored by Brian Lindstrom, a history teacher in Aurora. Let's take a look at capitalism. What makes capitalism successful? In capitalist economies, people have strong incentives to work hard, increase efficiency, and produce superior products. By rewarding ingenuity and innovation, the market maximizes economic growth and individual prosperity while providing a variety of goods and services for consumers. Capitalism is one of the things that makes America great. Unlike any other form of economy, capitalism works because of competition. It strives to better the people. It strives to help. It strives to sustain itself. People from all walks of life come here seeking a better life, one that does not limit them and one that encourages people to seek after and work towards the American dream, something made possible by capitalism. Far too many people today are entirely too dependent upon government to be their savior. Public schools are no different. We have now become everything to school kids and their families. Teachers are more than they ever signed up to be. Parents, pastors, counselors, police officers, and grocery stores. This is not the role of an educator. This teacher concludes by encouraging the board with these words. I believe that if you do or say nothing, that will show that you are in support of this ideology. By not choosing a side, you have essentially already chosen. Most people do not want public school to be a place of political wokeness. They just want their kids to be taught reading, writing, math, science, and social studies, and done so free from politics. I agree. Thank you for your time. Have a great summer break. Happy Flag Day.
Good evening. I'm speaking on my own behalf. I want to express my support for the board's passage of Resolution 2023-43, rejecting the wrong-headed resolution of the Colorado Education Association, condemning the capitalist system. Several familiar games are being played in the Colorado Education Union's resolution. First of all, the resolution defines capitalism only by any imperfections found or that can be claimed to have been found in the capitalist system. Secondly, they ignore the fact that the economic freedom afforded in the capitalist system has undeniably provided the path to more prosperity and a higher standard of living to more people worldwide than any other system in history. Third, though the language of the CEA's resolution and that of the CEA's parent organization, the National Education Association, is laced with Marxist rhetoric, see, for example, the NEA's New Business Item 39 from July 2021, they refuse to name the alternative they'd proposed to replace capitalism. If it isn't Marxism, what is it? Why won't they say? Fourth, in the same way the Colorado Teachers Union resolution ignores the overall success of capitalism compared to any other system, it ignores the catastrophic failure of Marxism, the clearly implied alternative. Marxism is left to go unquestioned as if it were only a benign theory that has never been tried in real life. It has in fact been tried in real life, and the results can be measured in corpses stacked millions wide and millions high across the past century. Capitalism is indeed imperfect because human nature is imperfect. Free people naturally prefer pursuing their own interests may at times abuse their freedom. Marxism, on the other hand, denies human nature by pretending that if the people surrender their freedom and property to a benevolent ruling elite, their needs will be fairly attended to by the elites. But human nature remains human nature, and the Marxist regime, unfettered by free market restraints, is free to act decidedly and brutally in its own interest. Orwell, in his book Animal Farm, which should be required reading for middle school up, sums up the progression of Marxist rule from theory to promise to brutal reality in the way the slogan changes from the beginning of Animal Farm to the end. At first, all animals are equal, and in the end, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Economic freedom is worth defending. It's imperative that its high and low points are taught honestly and factually. It's also imperative that the true, complete, and unvarnished history of Marxist regimes are taught as well. Thank you again, and thank you for bringing up Resolution 2023-43.
Mr. Lyman Kaiser.
before I start, thank you for turning off the mics. I got 5% of that last presentation. That's hearing aids and disaster. Going forward, President Melpackham and board members, thank you for having the courage to place Resolution 2023-43, Support for Economic Freedom in Impartial Classrooms, on the board agenda for action. I sincerely hope that you will approve it with a 7-0 vote. I was shocked when I first saw the Colorado Education Association resolution condemning capitalism. I find it hard to believe that all of our wonderful, hardworking teachers at B11 fully support that resolution. No system is perfect, but capitalism alone is not responsible for all the ills attributed to it by CEA. As stated in your resolution, societies based on capitalism have provided far more benefits to their citizens than those based on communism, socialism, or similar economic structures. I wonder if those voting for the CEA resolution have seen firsthand the difference between East and West Germany after the wall came down. Studied the difference between capitalist-oriented South Korea and communist North Korea, or talked at length with the migrants and refugees from Venezuela since it became a socialist country. Your resolution is also in line with B11 policy IMB, teaching about controversial and sensitive issues, which calls for presenting to students the pros and cons of all sides of a controversial issue in an objective and balanced way, so that they can make good logical decisions free of one-sided indoctrination. That is what we need in B11. And yes, the objective assessment of the merits of capitalism versus socialism, communism, etc., will show the benefits of capitalism, as your resolution indicates. Please support Resolution 2023-43.
Thank you. General comments, Mr. Dom Angiolo.
That's correct.
Did I get
It's
your
a hard
name
one to
right?
pronounce. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Dom Angiolo. I'm an ally and I'm a board member of Inside Out Youth Services, a local organization that serves LGBTQ young people, to include many D11 students and their families. I'm here to comment on the staff conduct policy and parent partnership policy. I want to thank the policy committee and this board for rejecting the proposal to prohibit discussion of gender-affirming pronouns. And I want to thank you for also ensuring that the parent partnership policy provides privacy to students by not requiring that teachers and staff disclose their pronouns or gender identity to their families without the student's consent. As you know, these are critically important issues for our community. These policies will support this board's very own diversity resolution and help to support our LGBTQ+ students if they're implemented in a way that focuses on the safety and well-being of all students, including those identifying as LGBTQ+. So we ask that you mindfully consider the impacts on LGBTQ+ students as we implement these policies. We ask that the board and administrators ensure that staff continue to be permitted to have voluntary conversations with students at an age-appropriate level about their pronouns and gender identity. These discussions and the use of gender-affirming pronouns serves a legitimate educational reason, providing a safe and supportive environment for students, which maximizes student engagement and learning. We further ask that you avoid categorically characterizing such discussions about gender identity as inappropriate, as doing so only further stigmatizes a historically marginalized community and contributes to negative health outcomes, which negatively impacts their ability to thrive and succeed in their learning environment. Regarding the parent partnership policy, Inside Out appreciates the value of partnering with parents. We see many supportive families at Inside Out who partner with us and schools to support their children's authentic self. But sadly, we also see young people who've been rejected by their families or are terrified right now to be authentic in their homes. Fewer than 33% of transgender and non-binary youth found their home to be supportive. So as you strive to achieve transparency and engagement with parents, please remember to prioritize student safety as well. As one 14-year-old student who attends Inside Out told us, it's just so much nicer not having to be afraid and know the teachers will support you. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Kinderdine, Ms. Rebecca Kinderdine.
Good evening, President Milpack. Can you hear me?
Louder. Just louder.
Louder?
Yes.
Okay.
You can do it.
You can speak. Members and Superintendent Gall.
Horace Mann, often considered the father of public education, said, "Education beyond all other devices of human origin is a great equalizer of conditions of men. What has become known as equity, in other words, is a consequence of education." In 2020, when Dr. Michael Thomas was the superintendent of Colorado Springs School District 11, the district sought to create equity not by improving its educational outcomes, but rather with a new bureaucracy, a Department of Equity. At that time, the 11 performance merits put it in the bottom 50% of Colorado school districts, and Mitchell High School, which has been failing for years, was on the verge of a state takeover. At Mitchell, 74% of students are below the poverty line, and 71% belong to minorities. While in other areas of Colorado Springs, balancing homework with track or baseball is the norm, at Mitchell, a student is more likely to be struggling to feed herself and her siblings. When the new school board majority was elected in 2021, they disbanded the equity department, parted ways with Dr. Thomas, and brought in a new superintendent with a mission to improve the district's academics, and consequently to advance real equity for D11 students. Improving Mitchell High School was at the top of their priorities. They created the Mitchell Promise, an innovative scholarship program offering qualifying Mitchell graduates a full ride to Pikes Peak State College. The Gazette reported the impact the program had for one Mitchell alum. The Mitchell Promise was life-changing for student Victor Torres, whose dream of one day becoming a wildlife officer stood behind cumbersome financial barriers, he said. His dad considered a third job that to make ends meet and support his son's pursuit of success. The result of the program, a gigantic leap in Mitchell's graduation rate from 63% last year to 94% this year. Graduating from high school is one of the most effective ways to stay out of poverty. The other two are having a full-time job and getting married before having kids. Mitchell, which serves the most disadvantaged students in our community, just experienced a 31% jump in graduating students in 1 year. That means 31% more students have radically reduced their odds of living in poverty.
Thank you, Ms. Kinderdine. Your time is up. You can email the rest of your comments to the
Okay.
board. Thank you. So that is the end of public comments, and thank you again for providing and sharing your comments and concerns with the board. The board appreciates hearing from you. Your feedback helps us better do our job. Moving on to the special reports that are And the first item that is there on the special reports is legislative update, and I see Mr. Dillon is there at the back of the room. So just to provide some context, from the beginning of this legislative session in January to the end in May, late May, early June, the board has received periodic updates from Mr. Pepper. He's our liaison that works with the legislature and advocates on behalf of both causes out there. So Mr. Pepper is here to provide a wrap-up summary now that the legislative session has ended, share with us some of the high takeaways from it, and also I'll open it up for the board for questions after that. The floor is yours, Mr. Pepper. Thank you for joining us in person.
Absolutely, happy to be here.
Right, I don't know if the microphone is working, but you just have to talk a little louder. Okay.
I submitted a PowerPoint too.
Yes, she's going to pull it up.
Just at least some people can know kind of what I'm talking about. So the legislative session ended on May 8th. About a month ago, 5 weeks ago, the governor had 30 days to sign or veto any bill that reached his desk. Ultimately this year, let's go to the next one. So like I said, ended on May 8th, so there are 619 bills introduced this year. About 80% of those bills that were introduced were passed and signed by the governor. In total, the governor did veto 10 bills this year, which was more than he's ever vetoed in his previous 4 years, and more together than he's done in the last 3 years combined. So there was more vetoes this year than we'd seen previously. We also had seen the last couple of years that towards the end of session, things get rushed through. So in the final 2 weeks of session, almost 300 bills went through the legislative process, and that includes 200 bills in the final 5 days. So it was a hectic last couple weeks. They were very long hours, but from a school and school district perspective, we really did come out in a pretty good spot this legislative session. We've talked about this, since I started working with you guys pretty extensively about K-12 funding and, what we saw coming. But we're able to, proudly report that this year Colorado invested $9.1 billion into public education. That's the largest single-year investment into schools the state has ever made. That includes a $180 million buy-down of the budget stabilization factor, as well as the promise that they will work towards buying down the remaining $141 million next year to finally fully pay off that budget stabilization factor. They were able to do $30 million in one-time money for rural schools, as well as $23.5 million for a mill levy matching override program, as well as there was about $30 million of additional money in the School Finance Act this year in Senate Bill 23-287. Categorical programs were increased by $40 million, and when you add it all up, including Senate Bill 99, which is an additional $40 million for special education funding, which finally funds the Tier B special education, the state share of Tier B special education, it was $1 billion increase in K-12 education, or about $1,000 per student. The last bill on there that I wanted to just talk about was House Bill 23001. Colorado is facing a teacher shortage. House Bill 22-1220 provided stipends for student teaching. So it was $11,000 for a 16-week program and $22,000 for a 32-week program. The problem was the mechanics of the bill made it that people were losing either financial aid or Medicaid eligibility and other public assistance. So they put $52 million into that program, and because of that, almost no money went out the door. They were able to change that with this year's bill. They also added in superintendents and principals and other educators and paraprofessionals as eligible to receive those funds, and they're going to try to do 2 grant cycles this year and push that out the door as quickly as possible. Throughout the year, I'd also talked about Senate Bill 56, which is was asking for an additional $35 million to para. When the state missed its payment in 2020, the market had a very good year, and this would go to pay back those market returns. I had forecasted that the state likely was not going to do that full $35 million amount. They did do an additional $14 million this year for para to make up for that missed payment in 2020. Just jumping into some legislation here, and I just kind of wanted to highlight things that have changed since I saw you guys last, so we don't have to rehash everything we've talked about. So this first bill 23001 is the mental health screenings. That bill remains voluntary as an opt-in for schools. 1109 we discussed was one of the more controversial bills that had the substantial nexus before a student was able to be suspended or expelled. That bill was postponed indefinitely. And the bill below it, House Bill 23-1291, was what came in its place. And really that established guidelines for expulsion hearing officers as well as created CDE trainings. CDE has a couple of years to implement those programs, and it got it to a much better spot. House Bill 23-1231, it remained the same. It was a $25 million investment creating the Colorado Academic Accelerated Grant Program for trying to boost math in Colorado. And then House Bill 1241 also remained the same and was signed by the governor. The last slide of this, in the slide deck, will be a whole host of interim committees. In addition to those, there's also task force. House Bill 1241 is an additional task force that will be meeting over the next, over this interim, producing a report by March 1st of 2024, and then a final report by the end of 2024 related to the accountability system in the state of Colorado. These bills are now all Senate bills. Senate Bill 23004 remained the same. They added some language in there that says school counselors and other mental health professionals in schools cannot be supplanted. They must be additional, so you cannot replace an existing school counselor with one of these other licensed professionals. And that was meant to protect counselors or other mental health professionals in the school. It still does allow an additional option for schools to hire more mental health professionals who may not have the school certification. Senate Bill 23029 was created and made a task force in the middle of the session. That, along with House Bill 1109, that kind of ran together. This bill was parred back to a task force who will be meeting over the interim and really diving into school discipline procedures and processes and looking at what the impact of that is. Senate Bill 94 remained the same pretty much throughout the legislative process, and will study school transportation and how better ways to do it, more innovative ways to do it. We talked about school safety was a very hot button issue. This all in invested $28 million of additional money into school safety. It also consolidated, there was about 7 different departments and offices that looked at school safety and had oversight of school safety. This consolidated it into a new office of school safety, which should help with efficiency. They additionally put in some money for grant writers and things like that to hopefully help smaller and more rural districts who aren't able to access these grants access them. Final bill on this slide we didn't talk about. It was one of the bills that was introduced in the last 5 days of session. And this bill requires that public schools adopt a formal policy protecting students from harassment and discrimination. They also must train staff annually and collect and pass data on reported incidents to school districts and the state. That bill ultimately went through with significant amendments and got it to a place where school districts really should be able to comply with this now. And it changed significantly over those last several days of the legislative session.
When does that take effect, the last bill that you talked about?
So that takes effect upon the governor's signature, and I believe he signed it on 6/5, so the schools will.
What I mean is, do we have to comply with it starting in August?
You will have to by the end of that school year. So there is a ramp up period into that.
Unfunded.
The last couple of years, particularly with COVID-19 pandemic, workforce legislation has been a big area of focus. This year we saw, a handful of bills that you see in front of you. House Bill 1212 was signed by the governor. It gives 2 navigators. It was brought by Representative Eliza Hamrick, who's a Cherry Creek school teacher, that really wanted to get more information about apprenticeships and credentials into high school students' hands, and that was the intent behind that bill. House Bill 1246 was a major priority of the governor, and that invested a total of $45 million to create and encourage the completion of credentials for specific occupations based on the CWDC talent pipeline report. And then Senate Bill 2365, and I don't see Dwayne here today, but this is a program that the district has used, and they increased the funding from $1 million to $5 million annually, and it was supposed to repeal in 2024. They extended that for a 10-year period. Finally, Senate Bill 23205 was another priority of the governor, and these are $1,500 scholarships to graduating high school seniors this year if they meet certain eligibility criteria. That's one we talked about previously that remained in the same, unchanged since I spoke to you guys last.
And Governor Polis came and signed 1246 at Coronado High School.
That really was one of his big priorities in an area that I anticipate looking forward is he will likely put more money into initiatives like that. So this is the biggest change since I saw you guys last. We listened to your previous presentation about mill levies and bonds and everything else. So this bill, Senate Bill 23303, is a referred measure that you'll see on the November ballot that is meant to reduce property taxes over a 10-year period. I will say I think you're going to experience some voter confusion with this because in order to pay for that property tax cut, they're keeping more of your TABOR revenue. And I think, I won't forecast how I think the election's going to go, but I do think voters are going to struggle to understand this change. And I think taking money from your left pocket and putting it in your right pocket and calling it a tax cut is going to be tough for people to swallow. All in all, it does a couple other things. It does it for 10 years, like I said. It increases at 1% annually, the amount the states are allowed to retain under TABOR, and it allocates $20 million towards rental assistance. I do worry that in an economic downturn, reducing the permanent tax rate of property taxes which fund schools could lead to an increase in the budget stabilization factor in the event the state doesn't have enough money. At the same time that that's going on, if Proposition HH passes, 1311 says everybody gets an identical TABOR refund. So if you guys remember last year, everybody got $750 or $1,500. So if Proposition HH passes, this year's refund will be $672 if you're filing as a single taxpayer, or $1,344 if you're filing jointly. I think given all that, given the property tax changes, additional classes of property, and then you add in the TABOR refund mechanism change, I think it's going to be a lot for voters to digest and understand. Just quickly, a budget overview. Next, on the 20th, June 20th, we're going to get another forecast, and all this will be out of date. The final bullet point I do want to just highlight, in the 25-26 budget year, the state is facing a $1 billion structural budget deficit. Essentially, over 3 years, they used largely one-time tax payments and one-time federal ARPA money to create ongoing programs, and that has resulted in a pretty significant budget deficit. The state has ways to address this and has some time to do it, but that is a potential concern looking ahead. And just the last two things I kind of want to wrap up on here. So in addition to the interim committee, the School Finance Act did include another task force. And so that is something that we'll have to watch closely and pay attention to because they will be making recommendations on how to update, modify, and change the school finance formula. Certainly, we do remember where we started with this year's School Finance Act with the reduction in the cost of living factor. That hasn't gone away. That will be an area of concern that this task force studies and something that we'll have to watch out for very closely. It was because of the work largely driven by Superintendent Gall and Director Melpackham, getting the districts mobilized and changed what we saw this year. We will need another effort like that, making sure nothing happens like we were able to do this year.
Do you have a list of members on these committees, or they're just?
They haven't appointed them yet, so the speaker, president, governor all get appointments. As soon as those are released, I will forward them along to you guys. That was a little bit faster tonight, but I'd open it up for any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if I can see you, so if you are inclined to ask a question, just raise your hands. so you can grab
Like
my
the old
attention.
days.
Yeah, I know.
I asked mine, so I just jumped in.
Okay. But thank you for providing us regular feedback, updates, and thank you for being here in person now. Hopefully your schedule is also a little less, you were spending a lot of late evenings out there
Yeah.
following what's going on in there. So looking ahead to the next session, what we as a board should be looking at would be that COLA that you talked about, cost of living adjustment, how they are going to keep an eye on that, what comes from that committee.
Yeah, the changes to the school finance formula will be the biggest thing to pay attention to. I also heard debt-free schools mentioned. That's currently not calculated under your 25% override cap. There was a proposal that would bring that under the 25% cap. Things like that make it very difficult to finance new construction. So watching those other changes will be important.
Okay, any questions or feedback? Director Ott, I see you first.
Thank you. That doesn't help. House Bill 23-1259, the open meetings law, executive sessions violations that was vetoed. Do you think there will be interest amongst the legislature to bring that back? Because it has been a concern in some school districts.
I think there's an interest of the legislature and an interest of school districts. The governor's signing statement was rather pointed, and but we're reassessing right now because I don't currently see a path forward given his opposition to that bill. And he was pretty clear that any change lowering the current standard he would oppose. So I think we'd have to craft a policy that more carefully went after it while addressing his concerns.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would like.
Jason is good too. Director Jenkins.
I think he has a question.
Director Jenkins.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, just speak.
Excellent. So, Mr. Pepper's point, we came out pretty good on the education side of things, but as I reviewed that 33-page kind of overview that he sent to us, I couldn't help but think about all of the expanding state government with new offices and mandates and tasks and written policies and things that have put in place through the CDE and us as school boards. And then to hear that we have nearly a $1 billion budget deficit in the coming year makes you just wonder. And then to add to that with Mr. Pepper's point about the Senate Bill 303 and reducing your property taxes as a good side on the ballot, but doing that by keeping our TABOR refund, it just doesn't make sense. So hopefully we have some aware and informed voters and have some things to focus on for next year with the legislative session.
If Proposition HH fails at the ballot, we likely will see a special session at the end of November or early December, trying something else to address property tax reductions. That's what I would anticipate now that if that fails, they will try again before the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And you have a wonderful summer.
Thank you. You guys do too.
Moving on to the board member reports. I'm going to start off today actually with one of the presentations that we have scheduled. And you can pull up my first slide alone. And then I'm going to come to the rest of the board at that time. Yeah, there is just the crystal apple, if you can keep it on that first slide. Okay, so we have a lot of you are aware of the Crystal Apple program that the district has. It is a program that has recognized several of our teachers over the year for their teaching excellence in the district and promoting the teaching profession itself, being great role models for our students in the classroom. So the Crystal Apple Award began in 1988 after the Colorado State Teachers Award was discontinued. District 11, with the sponsorship from El Paso County PTA, wanted to continue honoring teacher excellence. The focus of this award, as I mentioned, was to highlight teachers who excelled in meeting the needs of our students, meeting them where they are in their capable educational journey and lifting our students up to excellence. These teachers have demonstrated professional collaboration and contributing to a positive school-parent community partnership. Over the years, the district has honored 210 teachers with Crystal Apple Awards and about 100 teachers with Crystal Apple Notes of Recognition. And I think my understanding, and we will get some clarity on it, the Crystal Apple Awards were awarded prior to COVID, the Notes of Recognition, because of the social distancing and the lack of events. I think Crystal Apple Notes of Recognition was done at that time. This past year, starting the Crystal Apple Awards recognized on May 8th, 37 teachers from District 11 with Notes of Recognition from their schools, students, families, and communities for their positive impact on the student. So with that, the Crystal Apple has a video that if you can go to that link and start that video. And we also have the Crystal Apple Award presenters out here, and I will introduce them.
From 1983 to 1987, the Colorado State Teachers Award honored teachers throughout Colorado, including many from School District 11. In 1988, the Colorado State Teachers Award was discontinued, but the El Paso Council PTA came together to create a new program in honoring teaching excellence.
The Crystal Apple Awards is a tribute to quality teaching, providing examples to our students and encouraging them to choose teaching as a career.
The Crystal Apple recipients represent the diversity of School District 11, from the courses and grades they teach, years of experience, and even their unique backgrounds.
Winning that award was just a boost of energy, humility, just a great encouragement. And since then, I've been able to take the insight I've learned from other mentor teachers and really invest and pour that into the up-and-coming teachers as well.
Since I've won the award, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of young, upcoming teachers. I've worked with some kids at UCCS, and we've had some student teachers come in. It's been great to have them guys around. It's not that much for money, but for just being with people, this is the profession you want to be in, period, teaching.
Teachers have always been there for my big moments. They are my family, my mentors, and my friends. The best thing that I can do in life is to continue that tradition, knowing that there is no such thing as just a teacher.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will introduce Ms. Nora Brown. Please welcome. And you have been an integral part of this program for several years, so you've got some words to. What's that?
So been involved for a while.
Yes. Please share a few words about the program itself, and I'm glad that over the years we have recognized several teachers through these programs for their dedication and commitment to our students. Turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, and good evening, President Malpacum, board members, Superintendent Gall. I'm joined here tonight with some of my fellow Crystal Apple committee members to help spotlight the Crystal Apple Award. Since 1988, the El Paso Council PTA has been honored to be a primary sponsor of the program, bringing a focus to the teaching profession and the excellent teachers that we have in District 11. Pre-COVID, the committee worked with schools, families, and community to have teachers nominated for the award through books created with letters of recommendation and examples from peers, family, friends, students and their families, and the community, showcasing the incredible contributions of the nominee to teaching. These books were treasured awards in and of themselves, but those books were judged by members of the community, and up to 6 winners were selected to be honored at a banquet, to receive a Crystal Apple, a $500 grant for their classroom, and a banner for their school. Since 2020, we simplified the process, knowing the challenges for everyone, yet still more than ever wanting to support the work of our teachers. We instituted notes of recognition where anyone could nominate a teacher to be recognized for making a positive impact in their classroom. All nominees received an etched paperweight at a ceremony thanking them for their work. We are still determining where to go in the future, but we know that the work of recognizing our teachers and showcasing them to our community needs to continue. This program, as you can imagine, is a big undertaking. Luann DeCleva, with D11 Engaged, has spearheaded the work coordinating efforts between the committee and the district for over 20 years. Luann retired this year and is stepping down from the committee. We felt it would be fun to surprise her as we did our teacher winners, with descending on them at work and surprising them with friends, family, and the D11 media crew. So here she is on June 1st. She's not here tonight because she's started a well-deserved vacation, but we have a video. Well, we have a little surprise.
Oh my goodness.
And we are so excited. Yeah, come on out so we can get everybody here. Surprise! So we are very excited to be able to do our Crystal Apple surprise again.
Oh boy.
So on behalf of the District 11 Crystal Apple Committee and El Paso Council PTA, we are proud to announce that you are receiving an honorary Crystal Apple Award.
Thank you.
She could be here, but her husband's at the ER last time. So we have fun. And we just want to thank you for years and years of all your work to administer the Crystal Apple program in District 11 so that we can recognize teaching excellence and let the community know how strong District 11 is.
Thank you. A real Crystal Apple.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
And it says Luann DeCleva, Crystal Apple Champion.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We were outside, we predicted that you would be shedding tears.
Because I'm a crybaby. Thank you, Julie.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wish I had more time with you.
Thank you.
But congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So yeah, we are going to miss her. But we're hoping to bring her back at some point. So another critical member of the committee is our chair, Barbara Harris. Barbara has chaired the committee since 1998 and is also stepping down this year. She has been such a strong advocate for District 11 teachers since her kids were in the schools, and she saw their tremendous dedication to our kids. She's a realtor in Colorado Springs and proudly lets homebuyers know the strength of our schools. She coordinates the judges every year from the community, those without kids in the district, so that more people can experience, through the nomination books, the amazing work of our teachers. We're pleased tonight to thank Barbara for her dedication to D11 and to present her tonight with an honorary Crystal Apple.
Sure.
Yeah.
To the board. You don't know what gems you have. These teachers are amazing. I've been involved with Crystal Apple since 1988. And I am so proud, not as a teacher, but as a parent, as a community member, as a taxpayer, that I can say my children were raised and educated in School District 11. And I know it's from the tireless effort of all of these board members and former board members, Mr. Lyman Kaiser as well, that you put so much of your time and effort into it. And I, as a parent and as a grandmother and as a taxpayer, thank you all so very, very much. You have the most wonderful staff, and every time we have an event, I can't leave the event without tearing up because the teachers are amazing in this district. And it's because they get supported by you as well as hopefully the families and the parents. I don't think anybody realizes how much they work, how hard it is. But it has been a joy for me to do it. But I believe that with all good things, you need to introduce it to others. And so I'm hoping that someone will step up and become involved in Crystal Apple. And with Dr. Gall's guidance, because he's got some great ideas, we'll get it to be an amazing program and be able to recognize more and more of the teachers in our district. Thank you all very, very much. And thank you guys. I can't believe you did this, 'cause I almost didn't come.
For letting us do this publicly. So it's important to recognize Crystal and Barbara and to highlight the program. It's a great program. But I think it's important for our volunteers to recognize the time, effort, and heart that they give to this. Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you again, Ms. Brown, for recognizing Mr. Glover and Ms. Harris too for all your years of service. You said from '88 you have been part of Crystal Apple. That's a long time. You have a healthy and happy retirement now. You will continue to do the realtor work and get more people into our district level.
I love to tell them when we drive by schools, that's an award-winning school. They have award-winning teachers. I'm very proud of the district. So.
And we also look forward to hearing where this program is going to go in future years if you are still.
We need your support, that's for sure.
Previous type of award banquet or what you're going to do in the future. And also for our school community, this is a wonderful program. So school communities who want to recognize amazing teachers, and we have several more amazing teachers out there. Please nominate them, and so these teachers can get the due recognition. Thank you again. With that, further board member reports. Board members, do you have anything to share at this point in time?
Well, I do.
Okay, let's go.
Julie, you're up the first one.
Director Loma, you can go first.
Well, we come to an end of another year, and I'm just so pleased with what we have accomplished as a group. I was talking to one of the group, the employee group's leadership. He was commending the board on recognizing the parents and putting the parents in proper perspective, because in my eyes, they are the most important stakeholder of all the stakeholders, because we're dealing with their children. And we talked for quite a while, and we both boiled it down to this. Our job is to educate your children, not to raise them. And I really believe that with all my heart. In my mind, I've come in with the idea of making this place a neutral zone, free of adult talk, adult politics, and all that other stuff. That stays out there. This is like, in the war, you had Switzerland, they were always neutral, they didn't want to get involved. Well, that's what we should be here at the district. Our focus should be, and it has been, since I've been here, our board priorities. We've recognized our parents, but we also recognize the value of our teachers, not simply in words. This board, the last 2 years, has given historical raise to our employees, because that's how much we believe in them. And not only that, this board, on our own, decided to change the benefit package. So, and these are the broad areas where we can make our culture and the teachers feel appreciated, that we believe that they will be better teachers. And if they're better teachers, we'll have happy parents. And one thing you don't want to get mad as a mama bear because she'll come at you. And so if we have happy mamas, they will increase our attendance because if you haven't figured this out, women talk. And so they will talk, and all of our efforts, although they look, they're pointing in the right direction as far as trying to improve attendance, growth, the proof is gonna come from the family talking. And so that's, I can see in a broad stroke that has been our goal, and we succeeded to this point. I really believe that. And I can say this with all sincerity, there's more to come.
Thank you, Director Loma. Director Ross.
Thank you. Just today I had the opportunity to stop by one of the parks and see our food and nutrition services program in action with students getting food. They had a delicious chicken teriyaki salad, and tomorrow's macaroni and cheese, and every day, except 4th of July, there are many sites across the city where District 11 is feeding our students. So I just wanted to give that reminder to the community about that opportunity. Kids 1 to 18, look on the website. A reminder went out today about this program, and so 4th of July, you're on your own. But also breakfast at many sites. So check it out and let your community know. Thanks.
Glad to hear that the program is up and running. Director Backus.
Yes, I want to take the opportunity to thank all of you who have come to the board meetings or have written in to the board with your suggestions, your ideas, and your perspective, because that's how we grow. And I hope that we have, in the time that we have been together, shown that we listen to the input that you have given us, that we discuss amongst ourselves in a collegial manner, so that we can move the district forward, recognizing our great teachers, recognizing the direction in which we're going, that our superintendent has taken from the comments that have been made, the direction he gets from this board, so that we can provide the quality education that all of our kids deserve. And as my learned colleague has said, when our kids are progressing and our kids are learning, our parents are happy, and our district will continue to grow. So stay involved, enjoy your summer, and I hope to see you in the fall without this. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Daniels.
Thank you. I too wanted to acknowledge the food and nutrition program for the summer. I too went to one of the distribution centers, if you will, at Park. It was Maislin Academy, and they are serving great meals. But one thing I wanted to add to what Director Ott said is they're expecting you to stay at the site and eat the food. So I know in times past we were able to take it with us and go back home. This season they're asking that the children are there and that they eat the food while they're there. FYI, but please check the website and make sure that you see where those locations are. And I wanted to acknowledge our students who are participating in a lot of summer programs, whether it's band, footballs, baseball, soccer, all of the fundraising that's happening. Please make sure that you take care of yourselves and you remain safe, stay hydrated, okay? So when you start up in August, you're ready to go. And of course, all of our students in the Summer Bridge program, really proud of you for getting additional support for your academic year coming up in the fall. And yeah, I just want to encourage the community when they come and ask for support, make sure you're supporting their teams and their fundraising efforts so that they can reach their goals to help participate in. Some students are traveling with our district, summer language program, so I am excited that they're going to Mexico. Be safe when you're there, take care of yourselves, okay? Including chaperones. And also, yeah, just continue to look for ways to be there for them and making sure they're successful for the fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board directors? I don't see anything is Director Jenkins Carter Center. You can pull up my slides quickly. I'm not going to take too much time, but it's been a month or so since the last board meeting, so I do have some pictures to share with you. I'll start with the time that the board got to spend in graduation ceremonies over the past end of May. It was a couple of weeks when there were 8 or 9 graduations, one after the other. And it is always a pleasure to attend some of these graduation ceremonies. And this is kind of the pinnacle for me personally in my service on the board. Going to a graduation ceremony, watching the joy in our students' face, celebrating with their loved ones out there, watching them cross the stage, and each of these students act out in so many different ways. But they have demonstrated resilience, overcome adversity, especially these students over the past going through COVID and all the hybrid learning. So just watching these students come out there and receive that diploma and sharing in their joy, that was phenomenal. We also had several staff members out there. Their students, their children graduated, and right in the middle is Miss Ashby, our own Deborah Ashby. And I didn't realize you were here, Deborah. I thought you were not here, but there is a picture of you with your daughter. So congratulations to all the parents and staff members and staff members have the opportunity to come and hand over the diploma to them personally. And so that, it was good to see that some of our staff members take advantage of that. All the celebrations that took place out there, performances, student performances that took place, the auditorium, World Arena was packed. In the past 2 or 3 years, there have been restrictions with the number of people that could come in, and social distancing and all those. Having to remove all that, and some of the afternoons and evenings, there were almost 3,000 people out there in the auditorium. So it was a joy to celebrate with some of these students, watch their performances, and some of these students, especially in our alternate education program, whether they are 19, 20, some of them in the adult and family education program are much older, but they come into to accept their diploma, and they bring their own children with them too. So these are moms and dads that have prioritized at maybe a later stage in their life the importance of getting a high school diploma. So it was a joy to participate, and Director Bankus, you were also there. So thank you for being there. One of the public events that you attended, and 2 of them you attended and gave a graduation speech.
Highlight of my year.
Yes, same as so. And I want to thank all the board directors who also took the time participating in this over the last two weeks in May. I also got to attend a couple of middle school continuation ceremony, and this was at Jenkins and Man Middle School. Again, the auditorium were packed. These students were thrilled to receive their diplomas. And one of the things that I noticed this time around, at least at Jenkins Middle School, each of the graduating continuing student got a future Dorothy Spartan shirt, whether that was at the elementary school or at the middle school. These we are trying to at least market to these students at an early age that the pathway that you have to go through is elementary, middle, and high school. I also shared a picture of teacher shirts out there, and board, if you remember, this was one of the teachers that the Jenkins Middle School requested that we name the auditorium after him. He is retiring. He was got to address the students out there, and he was well received. Speaking of naming the area after him, the board approved naming the Scott Elementary Learning Commons after Dr. Larry Howard, and that did take place. So Dr. Howard was there in person, and all the staff members were there to recognize him. And if you have an opportunity, visit the library. They have an area dedicated to him out there. So he has, I've never got to personally visit with him. My child went through Scott Elementary, but Dr. Howard was at Scott before my time out there. But he is revered at that school, and the difference and the impact that he has made, even though he's retired over 10 years, it still left a lasting legacy that he's left there at that school and that community. I also want to give a quick shout out to Grant Elementary School teacher, Mr. Sanderson. He is the 5th grade teacher, and he was awarded, the Down Syndrome Association recognized him for his work of excellence with students that have Down syndrome and also other special needs out there. We saw the Crystal Apple Awards recognition a little while back. These are the type of teachers that are making a difference in our school on a day in and day out basis. And this is what gives me hope that if we put the focus on the right priorities, we as the district leadership, our community will respond because of the teachers such as Mr. Sanderson that we have there. Coronado has also got a Hall of Fame, and they recognize 3 teachers in their inducted 3 teachers into their Hall of Fame: Steve Servey, Daryl Schaefer, and Jan Noble. I want to give a big shout out to all of them. I got to attend that event, listen to some of these speakers. Some of these teachers were there in the 70s and 80s out there in the initial stages of Coronado High School, and they've got a rich history of what that program was, how the school developed over the years. So listening to these teachers share their wealth of knowledge, history of the school and the traditions that was there at Coronado, that was exciting to hear them speak. Superintendent Gall already shared about the One Plan Symposium. I got to attend one of the mornings up there, and what I saw was excitement out there. There was a room full of principals and building leadership, all of them collaboratively, even though it was the end of the year, and I'm sure they've had a long year, the excitement and the energy that I sensed in that room to what was being presented by Chief Acevedo, the amount of, they partnered into groups after that, and the conversations that were taking place, how to improve the academic performance in each one of these schools, the plan that was presented out there for next year, the professional development assessment plan, all those things proactively that was communicated to the teachers and to the principals and the building leadership. I sensed a lot of energy in that room. Some of the schools got recognized too, and that's the picture that I took. So I want to thank Superintendent Gall and his team. I know that a lot of work goes into developing this One Plan Symposium. Several members of the DAC were also there that morning, including Ms. Clausen and Mr. Lyman Kaiser. So it was good, productive time, and I would encourage all the principals and all the board members. Superintendent Gall has extended an invite for you to attend a K-12 principals meeting next year. That invitation has been open all year, and I know that Director Bankers took advantage of that, attended several of the K-12 principals meeting, and Director Jenkins has also attended. So if you have time, reach out to Superintendent Gall next year and attend one of those K-12 principals meetings. So great work that is going on out there.
We changed them to Tuesdays next year.
Okay.
So they don't be Wednesday in the beginning of the day to the long day here. So make it more accessible for y'all to join.
Yeah, and I don't want to share anything more on this. Director Art and Director Daniels has shared about the free summer meals. The sites are visited out there. Unlike Director Art and Director Daniels, I have not visited one of these sites yet. I hope to attend one of them. But a healthy free summer meal, if you are looking for as a family or for your child, participate in that. And I want to end in this note.
I want to congratulate Reggie Jackson. And Reggie Jackson, and this was brought to my attention by Ms. Ashby, and I saw on the social media website too. But he was graduating from Palmer Terror 2008 class of Palmer Terrors, and yeah, look at them now. Like just 2 days back, they won the national championship. So congratulations to Reggie Jackson, a proud Palmer Terror out there, class of 2008. And a world champion now. And I was talking to Deborah and asked her, is there any way, I don't know if Mr. Jackson has still got family in this area. So I was asking if we can get him to Palmer High School in the fall to address our students. That would be a wonderful opportunity if we can get him. So if you are listening, Mr. Jackson, or one of the invitation is open for you, so we can recognize you for your achievements.
Can we bring him on the school count day?
And I will end on this note. Speaking of the Denver Nuggets, it took them 47 years to reach that, to climb that hill, and it was 47 years of futility, year after year of failure, looking forward to the next year. But these group of players that are pictured in that screen, they came together. There were a lot of naysayers, including the national media and everybody that counted them out, that they were not going to accomplish this goal. And these group of players did not listen to all those naysayers, doubters. They had one thing that they counted on, and that was belief in themselves. That they can come together as a group of people and overcome all odds and get to where they did, so they can have a celebration. And now the whole state is celebrating with them. The analogy that I see out here in District 11, we often hear about years of declining enrollment, and District 11 has been underachieving. And if we as a community come together and believe in ourselves, and we set a goal with leadership leading the way, and that starts from the board and Superintendent Gall and everybody else that is seated on either side of this podium out here, we have some amazing leaders out here. But if we come together as a group and we lean in and put the focus on our students come first. And what we are in this for, as Director Loma said, educating our kids, providing them excellence in education. We can change this district around, and all this narrative that we always hear, this has been 20 years and this and that. We can change that if we believe in the common vision that is change the district around. And we started this year by celebrating our 150th year of serving this community. And right at the beginning of the year, we said that the goal that we are going to pursue excellence in everything that we do. And everything that we have accomplished, looking back in the numerous things that we have accomplished, it gives me great hope that we are headed in the right path. And all it requires is that we have to set aside our sometimes we as adults have to set up, I've shared this before, step outside that comfort zone, lean in and support our students. And if we do that, I honestly believe the future for District 11 is bright, and success is not only possible, it is inevitable. So as we head into the summer break, I have great hope and optimism that we are headed in the right direction under the leadership of Superintendent Gall. So with that, I end my board member reports. So moving on to consent items, Director Nelson, please make the motion to adopt the consent items.
We have
I move that the Board of Education adopt all consent items as designated in the agenda. The consent items are E2, approval of May 10th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. E3, approval of May 17th, 2023 special meeting minutes. E4, approval of May 23rd, 2023 special meeting minutes. E5, personnel recommendations, June 14th, 2023. E6, resolution 2023-38, use of portion of beginning fund balance. E7, resolution 2023-39, designations of fund balance. E8, resolution 2023-40, interfund borrowing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Before I call for roll call, Superintendent Hall, you had somebody to introduce?
Yes, we have our new assistant principal for Adams Elementary School, Ms. King. Can you please stand up and be recognized?
Yeah, well, no, thank you for the opportunity, and yes, great, I love it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Go Adams. Yeah.
I know Michelle's excited for you to be there as well.
Yes, we are.
Great.
It's wonderful. We have a lot of great plans, so yeah, thank you.
Ms. King, how do you pronounce your first name?
It's Leticia.
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 Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Welcome.
And now you're hired.
I'm official now.
Well, not until the board
Oh, that's
officially
right, sorry. Yeah,
takes
that's
the vote
right.
on
So
it.
in the, I don't know what you all have to do,
Yeah,
but
you may not want to leave until you hear the roll call.
She's wonderful, you guys.
do I stay, do I go?
Adam's making a turn.
Just one more minute, roll call.
Okay,
Is that the only introduction, Superintendent? Yes, roll call, please.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Daniels? Aye. Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson? Aye. Director Ott? Aye.
The ayes have it. The consent items have been adopted, and you are, Ms. King, officially the assistant principal at Adams. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Moving on to the action item, the first action item on the agenda is a contract award, Jenkins Middle School heating, ventilation, air conditioning replacement. Director Bankus, can you please make the action item? Make the motion for action item F1.
Yes. I move that the Board of Education approves contract C-223-1052 award to Olson Plumbing and Heating for Jenkins HVAC replacement in the amount of $4,397,670 and allow an additional 10% contract cost increase for any approved contract modifications without further board contract approval. The period of performance will begin May 25, 2024, with final completion date of August 1st, 2024.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Gall, this is a new item that is coming in front of the board.
Jocelyn, if you and James can come forward and present the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Gall, and good evening, Board of Education. My name is Jocelyn Kupferman. I'm the contracting officer for this project. With us tonight is Mr. Chris Damgard, project manager for Olson Plumbing and Heating. Also, Mr. James Warren, the assistant director of facilities. Now, Mr. Warren was the project manager when we started this effort. He will be passing along this project to another one of our project managers at facilities. Ms. Rosa Garcia is the interim executive director of procurement and contracting, and Ms. Jennifer Hotaling is the interim capital program manager, and she will also be overseeing this project as well. I would like to detail for you first this HVAC project, the funding, as well as the design effort, the solicitation evaluation process for the construction effort. First, let me explain what the contract requirement entails. Jenkins Middle School has a building automation system that is outdated, not supported, has obsolete parts, and is difficult to maintain. The existing rooftop units will be 25 years old at the time of replacement and are starting to have regular and expensive breakdowns. The current rooftop units have been working extra hard at high energy costs. The designed units will maintain better ventilation for a healthy environment. The existing boiler plant is of standard efficiency. The new boiler plant will be high efficiency, providing an overall lower utility operating cost. This project replaces a total of 100 variable air volume units, 32 exhaust fans, 1 heating water boiling plant, 1 domestic water boiler plant, 9 rooftop units, 1 air conditioner unit for the main distribution frame server room, 2 roof curbs, and 1 intake hood. It will also replace the current building automation system. Last October, the CDE approved the use of ESSER 3 funds to fund both the design and the construction of this HVAC project. To ensure complete compliance with all federal requirements regarding these funds, we've collaborated with our grants department to put systems in place. One of these requirements is the Davis-Bacon wage rate verification audit, which I perform monthly and verify and archive with the grants department. Another ESSER 3 requirement is that all ESSER 3 funds must be fully expended by September 30th of 2024. Any work done after that date will be paid using our capital program funds. At this time, we anticipate that that only is going to pertain to the commissioning services that are performed by our design team. In January of this year, we issued that design solicitation to replace the HVAC system for Jenkins. This design effort was awarded to Ferris Engineering under competitive procedures. The period of performance for the design itself was January 9th, 2023 to April 1st of 2023. Once that design was complete, we issued a construction solicitation for the HVAC replacement. We received 4 responsive proposals. Olson Plumbing and Heating was evaluated as the best value solution based on the overall thoroughness of their technical approach and project timeline and their compliance with our standards and specifications. In addition, the team also evaluated all submitted proposals on their key personnel experience and qualifications, company capacity and capabilities, and their company's past performance and related experience. Although Olson's pricing was not the lowest for this project, the best value trade-off for a slightly higher price was the detailed technical approach for this highly complex project and confidence in their ability to meet our construction schedule. The construction schedule for this project will start the day after school ends next year, May 25th, 2024, and end on August 1st, 2024. Demo work will start right away, followed by the installation of the controls, furnace, and exhaust fans. The old multi-zone units will be craned off the roof prior to the arrival of the new units on July 10th. This will allow for the new roof curbs and roofing to be installed, patched in, and prepared for the arrival of the new units. Once the new units are installed, there will be a factory startup and functional testing of these units. Once that is complete, all formal testing and balancing will take place in the last week of construction, followed by any remaining state and local final building inspections. Final contract completion date for this effort is December 1st of 2024. During the period of August 1st, 24 through December 1st of 2024, any identified punch list items will be finalized, such as warranty documentation and a final inspection from Ferris Engineering to ensure that all installation meets design requirements. There is a 10-year warranty that covers all the rooftop units, components ranging from 1 to 10 years as well, and labor and parts are warranted for 1 year. Our standard construction contract terms and conditions apply to this project, including a liquidated damages clause. Liquidated damages are not meant to be punitive, but rather to address any unforeseen delays caused by the contractor that would result in an interruption to the educational space during the school year. In this instance, the cost to the district to provide temporary classroom facilities would be $2,500 a day. I would like to take a moment to add clarification to the motion of obtaining the additional 10% in the construction scope. This is not a budget approval request, rather a contract increase. This would allow us to address any unforeseen expenses that could arise within the construction period. It's not uncommon to have contractual increases in construction processes or projects, and we do have that budget in place. This concludes my overview of this construction effort and the contract terms and conditions. Mr. Warren and Mr. Damgard are here to answer any technical questions that you may have regarding the contract. At this time, I turn it back over to the board for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Director Bankus.
Yes, do you anticipate any supply chain disruption to being able to provide the equipment, or is it dismantle what's already up there?
So we don't anticipate any, but there's always never a guarantee.
Well, it used to be a big topic of conversation. We
Correct.
haven't heard anything lately, so.
Our current lead time, Chris, please speak up if I'm incorrect, our current lead time on our largest equipment from the vendor is 30 weeks. So that's part of the reason we're here today, is to ensure that we have a buffer to make sure we can get that equipment here without interruption to next school year. So that gives us a little bit of that buffer window.
Thank you.
Well, the project isn't scheduled to start till May of
Correct.
next year, so
Correct.
you got that buffer.
Correct.
It's 30 weeks lead time. So.
Correct.
Yeah. Director Bankus, are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Director Nelson.
I heard once that, just to put it in perspective for the community, that with Jenkins being a newer building, it was built where you couldn't open windows and that sort of thing. So if our AC goes down, we have to close school basically. Is that correct? Like that's how serious this is?
To my knowledge, yes, that is correct. There are not operable windows in Jenkins. Security is one of the reasons why that was done at the time.
Right.
And yes, it would get very hot in there without any operable windows. And if the equipment's fail the way it's designed, we can't provide ventilation either.
Right.
So there's no ventilation or cooling if they go down again.
Right, so just again, for the community to understand why Jenkins has become a priority, because we've been band-aiding a system for a long time, and we want to be able to have school, and we would have to close school if the system went down.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for confirming.
I'll just comment how lucky we were this year on a relatively cool fall for the school year and definitely an extended winter. I mean, as we're still seeing the rain and the cooler temperatures, that any of the malfunctions that we have had, that we continue to have, just haven't manifested themselves to a decision point where it would impact academic learning. But this is the opportunity, and especially having just given the ESSER update last week to the board in the work session, this last chance dollar to be able to spend this through approval through CDE is the best solution for Jenkins.
Yeah, and I do remember a year or two back in August and September, there was some problems with the heating,
Yes.
the ventilation system, and you had to put like huge fans out there in the corridors to keep the air circulating out there. So I'm glad that this is being addressed. Director Daniels.
Thank you. I'm just curious for the job, when you guys are, I guess, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you for this, because I know that there were fans, there were parents bringing water, there were parents who were, emailing saying this is not, and it's in the basement that most of the 8th graders were, and they were like miserable. So we are so excited that you're coming in to help us resolve that. And when it comes to the system going in, what is the length of time that it will sustain? Do you know, I know you guys are retrofitting things and you're bringing stuff in because it's an older system and all of that, but we're trying to work on the facilities master plan. You know what I mean?
Are you asking the longevity of the equipment, the lifespan?
Yes,
Okay.
because we have to go through all of the processing of what we've been talking about earlier today, and people are gonna see $4 million.
Yes, ma'am.
And they're, you know what I'm saying?
The simple answer is it's gonna last us a lot longer than the industry says. And it varies based on the type of equipment. Most of the equipment in that building is going to have an industry lifespan of somewhere between 15 to 25 years, depending on the type of equipment. So the equipment that's currently in there has at its lifespan. And a lot of our district equipment is well past that we continue to maintain and keep up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that, because oftentimes when we're talking about this conversation earlier tonight with the team, we were talking about this 4 years ago. And it seems like we keep talking, and somehow the understanding of these big ticket items, there's only so much you can do.
So we need to really consider how we're gonna move forward with taking care of our students, which means taking care of the facilities and everything that goes with it. So thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
James, can you just maybe do a quick comparison on the cost for Mitchell and the
Yes.
time period that that took as compared to what we're doing here for Jenkins?
Absolutely. Mitchell's project started with the design. By the time it's completed, we'll have about 3 years is what I have in the process of Mitchell through completion in August of this year. Olson's a subcontractor for the general at Mitchell. The project at Mitchell, just the construction effort, not the design, the construction effort on that one, don't quote me, but off the top of my head, I believe the initial construction effort was $14.6 million in 3 years to complete. That's a very difficult, it's been a very hard project with a lot of effort from a lot of community members and district staff, teachers and everyone that has helped us through that process. We will get it completed this summer. Jenkins is not quite to that scale because it's not the square footage of the building and it's not the age, so we don't have some of those issues. We don't have the environmental hazards or concerns with Jenkins because it was built a lot newer than we do with Mitchell. There's environmental things we had to abate and take care of, in that building, that some of it was unforeseen and some of those things. So that's a big help, is to help make that process happen in a shorter time window. At Jenkins compared to Mitchell is because it's less square footage and we have less environmental hazards and concerns at that building that we had to face at Mitchell.
And I just wanted James to share that because with my background in this field, this is a steal.
Yeah.
$4.6 million to retrofit the largest middle school in the district and set it up for 25 years of high quality HVAC equipment that will have premier controls that allows us to then manage against some of the things that we'll learn from our ESCO of how much money we are overspending.
Yes.
There's our own return on investment that will pay in the tens of thousands of dollars a year on just being able to run that building more efficiently.
And just for clarification, the current boilers that are in there, just for a simplicity sake from an energy standpoint, those boilers are somewhere around 80% efficient when they were new. Just like your automobile, as they age, they lose efficiency. The new boilers that are going in, at time of install, manufacturer rates them at about 96% efficient. So we're picking up quite a bit of efficiency alone right there to help in our utility savings. So that'll be big.
Will the control system be room by room?
Yeah, we can, however we want to do it.
Yes.
We designed that through the team.
Yes,
but
we'll be
it'll
able to
a
monitor every
state-of-the-art.
temperature in every room and see
From a
that.
laptop, a computer, you can control it?
Yes, and we can currently do that right now. I can do that from remotely from anywhere in the country that I have access. And our building managers are able to see that remotely too. So, on the new systems that we've installed.
Great. Thank you. Any further questions from the board? Seeing none, the motion on the floor is to approve contract 2023-1052, contract award to Olson Plumbing and Heating for Jenkins HVAC replacement in the amount of $4,397,670. The motion was made and seconded. Roll call, please. Officer.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Daniels? Aye. Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The contract has been awarded to Olson Plumbing and Heating. We look forward to hearing about this a year from now, and hopefully the work goes smoothly and it's taken care of next summer. So when the students return in August of 2024, they have, and the students and the staff are able to have a comfortable learning environment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, congratulations.
Moving on to the second item on the action agenda item, Director Daniels, can you please make the motion for action item F2?
I move that the Board of Education approves the request for 2 FTEs for 4 ESPs, kindergarten aides.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Again, Superintendent Gall, this is new information. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'll bring Dr. Brandon Comfort forward, but just as some background, this is a good problem and an identification of some challenges that we still have. One of the things that I have the authority through the way we've done staffing is I have MLO funded teacher positions that as we see increases of enrollment that are above what we have forecast and staff buildings for, I don't have to come to the board to be able to assign those teacher positions. That's a great way for us to have ease of supports for our schools, specifically when we have the wonderful problem of more kids showing up or more kids enrolling than we had forecast. What's not baked into that is the associative supports that come with that. And so the fact that we have several kindergartens that Dr. Comfort will talk about that have exceeded enrollment means I'm going to give away the teacher position, but I don't have authority without coming to the board to then get the requisite teacher aide ESP position that goes with that. So we think we can reconcile that over the next year with some of our staffing allocation task force work that we'll do this summer. But in order to be prepared for this year, we're coming to the board with a request for some teacher kindergarten aides because we're growing. Brandon?
Good evening, board. Pleasure to see you. As Superintendent Gall shared, we have good news today. We have 4 of our elementary schools, Scott, Buena Vista, Chipeta, and Trailblazer Elementary, that are already above their targeted projection for kindergarten enrollment for next year. And they're beyond their projected enrollment to a place where we do need to add a section of kindergarten in order for them to not have to shut down enrollment. As Superintendent Gall stated, we already have a plan in place for the teacher FTE for that, but we do need the board to approve the 4-hour aid for each school. And then remember, as we discussed in last week's work session, ESSER funds, ESSER 3 funds will come in and supplement that to make each of these positions a 7.5 full-time kindergarten aid for the 4 classrooms. So the request is for the additional FTE. As Superintendent Gall stated, this does come with a commitment that as we redesign our staffing allocation process this year, especially in our partnership with Allaview, we will build a system that has these rules built in. And so we shouldn't have to come after the fact and say, hey, we need more. It will be an associated cost that says, when we do this, here's what happens. And so we look forward to that. I turn it over to the board for questions.
Director Nelson, you were quick to punch the button.
Yeah. I was ready for this one. Can you just clarify that it's 2 FTE but 4 positions? So our kindergarten aides are half an FTE, even though they're full day? Or are we assigning them as half day? Because I know we went to full day with ESSER money.
Yeah, so they are half an FTE each for 4 hours. And then we come in with ESSER and make them 7.5 hours total. We provide an additional 3.5 hours with ESSER funding. But out of the general fund, each kindergarten aide is a 0.5 FTE.
Okay, thank you.
So we need the board's approval on the general fund,
Yep.
not on the ESSER fund.
But they will be full-time.
They will.
or
And if
full
you
day.
remember our chart from ESSER last week, we do have kindergarten aid savings that we won't have to go to CDE for any additional requests. We have that already built in, so we'll be able to fill these positions without any problem.
Great, okay, my second question is, I am trying to remember which schools we added preschool classrooms to, and if these are schools that received that, and so now we're just seeing the fallout from that.
Well, I know Chipeta was the first that we opened, and then King was the second. I don't think that Trailblazer or Scott were ones that we added pre-Ks to.
No, yeah, so Chipeta, I think we're seeing 2 things. We're seeing them recapturing their kindergarten market for their community. We're also seeing the rollover of preschool. Their preschool grew, and so now we can expect their kindergarten to grow. I think we will likely see Chipeta stay at 4 kindergarten classes into the future, and we'll see that school grow. Buena Vista, we were able to accept significantly more choice students this year, which is why we're able to add 2 classrooms. One of those is what they call lower L, which is their kindergarten classroom. And then in terms of Scott, they're just trending up. Again, they're recapturing their market. And then Trailblazer's a success here. This will likely be Trailblazer's highest kindergarten enrollment year in a number of years. They had a very active marketing campaign to kind of recapture their market and get into some of those D20 boundaries last year. And so hopeful that we see that play out in the numbers.
Great, you pretty much already answered. I was wondering if any of this also was impacted from our addition of the after-school programs, and I couldn't remember if these schools were recipients of that as well.
Trailblazer is an after-school program
Okay,
school
that's what I
that has run full most of the year. So absolutely, it could be
something
a
about
part of just getting more excitement at that school and getting closer connected to that community.
I happened to be at Trailblazer for their kindergarten signing day. I don't know if anyone saw that on social media. They picked up on the idea of how athletes sign for schools. So they had kindergartners come in and sit at a desk, and they had a giant pencil, and they had the mascot there, and they gave every kid a welcome package. And kids came in and signed their way into kindergarten at Trailblazer. So, and that was a homegrown solution that a staff member had brought to the principal, and they ran with it. And it was just, that's the type of innovative thinking that's happening in Trailblazer, where there's been a lot of pressure on the principal and the community of how do they improve their market share. They are 80% of market demand for their boundary, so it's very difficult for them to get more of the folks within. So they're expanding their thinking of how is it that District 11 celebrates choice instead of suffering from choice. So they're a prime example. And actually, I'll embarrass Brandon as he stands here. Brandon, as the outgoing area superintendent, did the visioning with Trailblazer this year to get them into that way of thinking. And again, they were awarded a governor's award just about a month ago. We were up and accepting that award on their behalf. And that was the picture that Parth had down from one plan. But this idea of rethinking what can happen at a school from Trailblazer, which is a beautiful facility with a high quality staff, it's just tapped out its market. People just don't live there anymore. And so then you can go like this, or you can say, where's my market?
Yep.
And they're going after it, and having a growing kindergarten is the best indicator of a solid plan going forward.
Great work to them for being creative and interested in marketing themselves. So good job, Trailblazer.
Yeah, maybe we need to have a kindergarten signing day in every one of our schools. If that's working, one of the reasons why. It's good to hear that Trailblazer is getting in new students out there, especially at elementary schools. Then hopefully we keep them for their entire K through 5 and then middle school years too. Trailblazer is one of the schools with the lowest utilization, I think, in our thing. It's less than 50%. So this is positive, optimistic news. And Scott, I mean, in Scott, when I was there, it used to have an enrollment of 600 students in that school. It has dipped into 450 over the last 3-4 years. It's good to see they are also trending upwards and capturing that whole northeast corner. I am really excited about Martinez, King, Scott, and Freedom. They've got some dynamic residents out there that get students in there. Back to Magnus.
The question becomes, with the expansion of classes, do we have the furniture? I mean, we approved a whole big budget item to buy more furniture. Are we gonna be able to accommodate them so they don't have old furniture while everybody else has new?
We will. So I think in most of these cases, I don't know for certain about Scott. I'll have to check on that, but I know the other three we're going to be in good shape. But it is a great point, Dr. Bankus, which is to Superintendent Gall's point about when we approve a kinder teacher, it should come with the teacher aide, it should come with an allocation for furniture. Those are all of the positive costs of growing. And so I think as we look at resources more holistically, we will make sure that that's a part of the overall package. We don't just talk about it in isolation. That says, okay, you got a kinder teacher, and then they have to come requesting additional things that just make sense.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, roll call please, Melissa.
Director Bankus?
Aye.
Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it, so the motion and the request for for kindergarten aid was approved. Director Ott, can you please make a motion for action item F3?
I move that the Board of Education approve the general fund for full-time equivalent request for 3 additional positions at Tesla Middle School at a cost of $275,709.
Second.
I need a second.
She got
Oh, you seconded. Okay, I didn't hear it, I'm sorry. Moved and seconded, again, Superintendent Gall.
Yeah, if I get Principal Miller to come forward. This is follow-up from the approval that we got from the board on the expansion of Tesla Middle School back to the original Tesla PD Center. And we said that we had some FTE to bring back. We've worked closely with Jason's team. This is the leanest that we can be. And Jason and I have had a couple of conversations on, let's go in with the proof of concept of getting the staffing that we need to open the building. We hope to have to come back to the board to add FTE as we see that demand. But we are conscious of not wanting to add additional costs to the district with unknown outcomes for what that enrollment will look like. So we're excited to be able to offer these 3 FTE. I'll let Jason talk about them. And we are hopeful then that in the middle of the fall, that either I'll be able to extend further MLO for teachers needed and or additional staff that would have to come to the board out of the general fund. Jason.
All right, so good evening. We're currently asking for an additional assistant principal. I talked about that last time we were here, so we could have administrators on both sides at all times. It also allows for a contact place for parents as well as staff members throughout the district. And they're there, obviously, to support and discipline and supporting school culture and stuff. So that's the first one we're asking for. Second one is a counseling position. We feel that it's necessary with the students that we're dealing with and stuff, that we have mental health support on site, that they're not only for that, but to advise their staff or the students and stuff with their education, as well as the early interventions and stuff that need to be put in. And then the last one is a staff assistant. Essentially point of contact, there for enrollment purposes, as well as to answering parents' questions and stuff that might come through and stuff when our assistant principal or counselor are not available.
Questions? Short and sweet. Director Nelson.
So I reviewed this on Friday and I think it's changed since then. Can you just speak to why there's now not a kitchen manager request and how we're gonna operate food services without that?
So I was out last week, so a lot of things that went up on board docs hadn't gone through me, and then on Monday I was able to review that. We worked with Janine Russell in Food Nutrition Services, and they have an FTE that they can allocate to support the current number of projected students at Tesla without us adding. If we do get a larger demand than we currently have, we will then work with Food Nutrition Services to add that FTE in a different way, and then that comes out of Food Nutrition Services budget, not out of the general fund budget, because they are funded in a different mechanism. But that came forward prior to my review. I was on last week, and I reviewed that on Monday morning.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
But again, just trying to be cognizant of, we want to staff our buildings for success, but we understand that the most expensive part of our budget, as we get to a budget conversation here in a moment, is the cost of staff. And with an unproven proof of concept of will we get demand for an alternative middle school offset at Tesla Center for the Tesla Middle School, and can we sustain that, we want to make sure that we're managing ourselves within the confines of that responsibility of the dollar.
It's good that food services already had FTE they could give up.
Yeah, and so I just have to give a public shout out, and I appreciate a couple of the board directors talking about some of the work that's happening on Food Nutrition Services. Janine and her team are doing a fabulous job. There's another piece of information that didn't make it into the board update tonight, but through Dwayne Robeson and through Food Nutrition Services, we want a grant to finally get the food truck idea at Doherty up and running. And so that just came out yesterday, and Janine's team was instrumental, because one of the challenges in wanting to do your own food is that sometimes you're outside of the confines of what the federal government says is allowed for food. So having our students to be able to develop their own food truck as part of their food and culinary arts work at primarily at Doherty is where it'll be based, is a strong testament to Janine's partnership. Because most internal food nutrition service programs would say, we don't support that, because they would see that as something against what their main deliverable is. But Janine's doing a fabulous job.
That's an innovative way to address that food truck.
But we're hoping they're Spartan gyros. I mean, could it be anything else than Spartan gyros? Gyros? It depends, right?
Potato potatoes.
Any further questions on this? Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott? Aye.
You guys have it? The general fund FTE request for 3 additional position at Tesla Middle School has been approved by. Thank you. Dr. Nelson, can you please make the motion for action item F4?
I move that the Board of Education approve Resolution 2023-27, student fees, fines, and charges for school year 2023-2024.
Moved and seconded that this information was presented to the board as non-action item during the May 10th regular board meeting, at which time the board had a robust conversation on this topic. The board also provided some guidance at the time to Ms. Callback. Ms. Callback is joining us remotely. She is at a professional development at University of Virginia. I think that's where all the area superintendents are this week. Ms. Callback is also joining us, and then there were some questions about some of the changes that took place in the documents that were uploaded on board docs that, as I replied to the board, that was me reaching out to Ms. Callback through Superintendent Gall, asking for some clarity, and then Ms. Callback verified that information and updated the board docs. But I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Callback.
So Sherry, I'd love for you to just first give the overview of the work we did since we brought this in non-action, and then summarize what some of those syntax errors were as we went from what was originally uploaded to what was finally presented tonight.
Sure, I'm happy to do that for you.
Louder.
The
Louder.
first thing that,
Be as loud as you can. We can barely hear you.
okay, sorry about that. Is that a little better?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing that we wanted to do was to further simplify the documents themselves to show greater consistency across our schools. I hope that you'll notice that as you open those documents. Most of them are much shorter, much simpler, and they no longer list out school by school fees. They are simply, if a school is offering an extracurricular activity, here's the maximum fee that they may charge for that activity. Area superintendents did work directly with principals where we found some outliers in the initial document to be sure that principals were comfortable with those maximum fees, and in every case they were. We also worked to match the family maximum for high school performing arts fees to the family maximum for high school athletics. Those two are now aligned to each other and the exact same amount. We know that for families with children participating in multiple of those activities, it can get a little expensive. And so we wanted to honor both the athletic side of the house as well as the performing arts activities side of the house. We worked with Dr. Mendelsberg to ensure that any fees that we're charging for high school credit were in line with some new Colorado statutes in that area. And so you will no longer see those concurrent enrollment fees for some of our local colleges. Those were no longer aligned to Colorado statute, and so we needed to remove those. Those are all pretty technical pieces. On a larger transformational scale, we plan to initiate a task force starting right at the beginning of the upcoming 23-24 school year, because we do believe that we can find a better way to approach student fees that could include some large-scale reductions or eliminations. As we heard when this item was at non-action, that level of work is going to take a little longer to complete in a really quality manner, especially as we consider budget implications, making sure that schools still have the funding that they need to run the programs that draw kids to us. And so we'll develop that task force very early in the school year and work with them on making sure that when we bring this forward again, you'll see some larger transformational changes. All of this really is with a goal around what we know about students who participate in extracurricular activities. We know that they tend to show better attendance, better grades, and better behaviors. And so our goal really in all of this work is to increase accessibility for all students. In terms of some of just the small pieces that we found with extra eyes on the document, there was a place for non-district student athletic fees that was not clear on the document that we've, thanks to Chris Knoll, we've provided some additional clarity around. And then really just a couple of typo cleanups. We found a couple of extra asterisks in a few places, but some minor changes that hopefully increase the clarity that you'll see in those documents.
From the non-action when this was presented, and also clarifying and simplifying some of these tables up there too. Director Nelson.
Thank you for the new format. It's much easier to read, so thank you for the work on that. And then one comment. I am glad to hear that we have now matched the performing arts with athletics and the family maximum payments. I don't see that documented anywhere. I know on the previous version it was spelled out in the document somewhere that there was a family maximum, but I don't see it on this new version. And so maybe that was a conscious choice to remove it, and that's fine if so. Otherwise, just wanted to point out that.
Are you talking about the performing arts?
And also the athletics. I don't see where it says there's a family maximum for athletics anymore.
Yes, it is there in the first page. I think it's called the policy JQE1, I think. The one that says JQE1.
Okay.
And
I was looking at like the high school version, and so like if I'm a parent of a high schooler, that's probably the one I would go to. So maybe we want to have it in both places. I don't know. You guys can think about that. But if it is somewhere out there, then great. Because if I'm looking at the high school one and it says that there's like for percussion, a spring, a winter, all these things, to me, I'm reading it as I'm gonna have to pay for both spring and winter percussion for my child. And it isn't clear that actually there would be a limit. So just something for you guys to think about. Thank you for making those changes. Really appreciate it. It's exciting.
Thank you. Those family maximums are located on a document that's titled District-Wide Athletics and Food Service Fees at the top. But that feedback is great for the task force to consider in the fall as well.
Thank you.
I find it, I think, in all student.
that's where it is.
Yes, okay.
JQE1.
Yes, all right, just wanted to check on that. I appreciate Director Nelson's comments, because yes, maybe there can be some combination. I did find those in E1, because, but also had to look throughout. The one thing I didn't see in the other documents was the call out, like for athletics, sport fees, that there's full fee, reduced lunch fee, and free lunch fee options and differences. But while we do call that out for high school, specifically in E1, we don't have an option like that for performing arts. It just lists the annual maximum cost. And similarly, for something like the district musical instrument use and rental fee, it doesn't call out those options. So I am curious if there are free and reduced lunch options there.
It's something we'd like for the task force to consider in the fall as they work through all of those budgetary impacts as well. The other piece that I would remind us all of is that as we've worked with principals, we know that no child and no family is ever denied the opportunity to participate in any extracurricular activity that they'd like. Principals work individually and privately with families on a very regular basis to ensure that students have access regardless of ability to pay. And again, that's great feedback for the task force in the fall as they look at those budgetary impacts and determine what those right numbers will be.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions? So thank you for the work that you guys put into this and bringing this now as an action item in front of the board. Roll call, please.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Daniels? Aye. Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson? Aye. Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it, so the board has adopted the resolution for student fees, fines, and charges. Thank you. Let's call back and hope the rest of the week goes well for you.
Thanks, Sherry.
Thank you.
Resolution 2023-41, appropriation of the fiscal year 23-24 budget. Director Loma, can you please make that motion for action item F5?
I move that the Board of Education approve Resolution 2023-41, appropriation of the FY 23-24 budget, and therefore adopts the FY 2023-2024 budget as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So this item has been in front of the board at the special meeting on May 17th as non-action. The board members have also had opportunities to ask questions through emails. I know that Superintendent Gall and his team have been responsive in answering some of those questions. First, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Gall. And Ms. Aronik is there too. Are there any additional information that you want to share with the board?
Sure. So we are in the process of preparing a more comprehensive budget book. This is usually released later in the summer. We are planning to release that again this year once the budget is adopted. The only changes you will see in this that are not included in the proposed budget that's hung, it's my understanding that we're eliminating the hiring bonus. So you'll see me move the $2 million that was budgeted for that back to the contingency. That does not change the resolution because we appropriate all of our reserves anyway. I will also add those FTE that were just approved tonight, the 3 for Tesla Middle School and the 2 for the kinder aides. Those will be added to this book. Otherwise, no changes to the resolution. I also just want to give a public thank you to the staff and the citizens that put in a lot of time and effort to this budget. I think it's a sound budget. It focuses on the goals of this board and this district, including achievement, enrollment, engagement, and operational efficiencies.
Thank you. Thoughts, comments, questions before we adopt? This is a big item on the board agenda. Director Bankus.
I want to take the opportunity to thank you. You did such a great job presenting it last time, giving us an opportunity to ask questions that we need to have answered. And so I wouldn't expect that there's a lot of, I don't have a lot more questions other than the fine presentation that you gave the last time. So thank you. And again, thank you to your staff for all that hard work.
Thank you. Director Ott.
Similarly, as one of the people who asked a lot of questions, thank you for the responses and patience with just all those answers. And yes, that's it. Thanks.
I'd like to just give my public acknowledgement. I asked the team to build off a model that I brought from DC, which is TEA, to be transparent, to be equitable, and to be accountable. That's what our budget represents. And I know that there have been some process changes in the ways that I've asked for things to happen. I believe that my staff better understands its own lever of resource and how to implement the board priorities and the district strategy. But I really want to compliment Laura and all the team and the community members, DAC Budget Committee as well, for all the support that they've given over the course of a very condensed time period with a delay in IVB and the long time it took for SFA to drop. This is an incredible amount of work that's not quite done, but they deserve a public acknowledgement for making that transition this year and putting the district in the best position to be able to start next year.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions at this point in time? And I'm going to, before I call roll call, I'm also going to thank all the work that you guys have put into the last couple of months. A lot of things have happened pretty quickly, and you had to adapt and be nimble to what was coming from the state legislature as far as what the funding was, and also the negotiations that were happening with the employee groups. And you were able to provide updated data to the board so we can make decisions that are financially prudent, that we are being responsible stewards of taxpayers' dollars. Over the past 2 years, if I look back, this board, through the adoption of this budget, we prioritized two things. One, in the first year, if I remember last year going back to, we put the focus on the students, which was we wanted to increase the contact time for elementary school students in all our elementary schools. So we increased that by 30 minutes, and we were able to do that by paying our teachers and providing that additional amount of contact time, especially with a lot of our students struggling coming back from pandemic learning losses. So one of the things that I've always feedback from teachers is we don't have enough contact time at elementary schools. And now we were able to address that student part of it in the first year, and through this budget adoption in the second year, we focused on our staff. And I am proud that through creative, out-of-the-box thinking, we were able to provide a starting salary of $50,000 for our incoming teachers, one of the highest in the El Paso County area. So hopefully that will address some of our staffing vacancies that are there. We will be able to hire more teachers into our schools and more teachers that are effective and able to support. Last year we heard about 80+ vacancies. I'm hoping that that won't be the case this time around. And we were also able to provide a high amount of pay raise for our ESP staff. They've been doing some really dedicated work and often for minimum wage, and now we were able to target those. It was a targeted raise, but we were able to target those that were making the impact closest to the classrooms and take care of them. And some of them got $3-4 pay raise, as much as 20-25% pay raise compared to what they were making. So I hope this will also address our staffing shortages in bus drivers, custodial staff, our SPED EAs, and all of it because we were able to creatively look at the budget in a different aspect and provide that support. So thank you for all the work that you guys did, and I'm going to be an enthusiastic eye in the adoption of this fiscal year 23-24 budget. Director Loma, you have come.
I just want to address the salary schedule that created the ESP, and I never really addressed that to you, but that was brilliant. Thank you. There were so many needs that needed to be addressed. And when I look at that, because I was on the board years ago, and I go, man, it's about time. And so I just want to address that. Thanks a lot.
The team, not me.
Right, even raising the teaching salary for $50,000, most often, it's looked at from the perspective it can't be done. And if you have a creative team that can look at it, and you have leadership that supports it, and a board that is willing to back it up, then we were able to go through this negotiations process and provided that these teachers at $41,000 were not making a livable income, and they were working 2 or 3 jobs. Now, $50,000 is still, maybe there are ways to go, but we were able to address them, give them a healthy compensation where they can at least now come to education, public education, as an option for them to pursue as a career. So, it goes back to, I'll summarize with this. This board is not set in the way things were done in the past. We are willing to look at everything creatively out of the box to find new solutions. And the board has been deliberate, the board has been intentional in the way that we have gone about in this, achieving some of the priorities that are behind the board dais out there. And along the way, over and over again, we hear those loud voices that disagree with the direction that we are doing, but I know that the administration and the staff are making an impact on the administration and the board are making an impact on the staff, because I hear feedback from the ESP staff talking to their, this has really impacted their day-to-day decisions, financial decisions that they have to make. So thank you again. With that, roll call please, Melissa.
Director Bankus?
Aye.
Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. We have one of the biggest priorities for the board is to appropriate the annual budget, and the board has by a 7-0 vote adopted the fiscal year 23-24 budget as presented. Moving on to the next item, it is policy JFBA, JFBB, school choice, open enrollment and transfers. Director Bankus, can you please make the motion
Yes,
for action item F6?
I move that the Board of Education adopt the revised version of policy JFBA, JFBB, school choice, open enrollment and transfers.
Moved and seconded. This item was presented by Dr. X as a non-action item. As a non-action item at the previous board meeting, there was no major discussions at that point in time. I wanted to bring this as an action item because at the special meeting, we didn't have an opportunity for public comments. We didn't hear any public comments. There is no new information to add on to this. I'm going to look at the board. Are there any questions on this? Seeing none, roll call please.
Director Bankus?
Aye.
Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Director Loma stepped out.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. So this policy JFBA and JFBB and the additions that were submitted was adopted. DAC membership and charge. Director Ott, can you please make the motion for action item F7?
I move that the Board of Education approve the DAC chair and vice chair for this 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Moved and seconded, this is a new item that is coming in front of the board. Is there anything specific, Ms. Stefanik?
Come on forward.
Come on.
I mean, I've stayed here this long, I might as well say something nice. So I just want to thank again the people. This will be my last meeting before you as the DAC chair after 4 years. I've been proud to serve. We're blessed that we have another person that's willing to step up, Marianne Clausen, that's willing to step up and become the DAC chair, which you'll need to approve. I want to thank the people, the subcommittee chairs that the DAC has, with Marianne Clausen, Amanda Huber, those two, and Lyman Kaiser, and then Dr. Colicky and Laura Hronik and Chris Owen that worked with those subcommittees as well. So last week we talked about the charges will be approved in the fall, but we'd like input on those as well. But what you really need to do tonight is just approve the new chair and the vice chair, which the vice chair, Lauren Walker, is not changing. So I don't know if you have any other.
Okay, so all that the board is approving right now today is the chair and the vice chair. The chair being Marianne Clausen, and the vice chair being repeating Lauren Walker. And I want to thank you again for years of service. I'm sure all the board members will echo what I have to say. Your dedication and commitment to the district and your passion to everything that is schools and student related, the amount of time that you volunteer. Thank you for your years of service on the DAC as the chair, but you're still going to be an integral part of DAC in a different capacity.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions from the board or comments? Yeah. Do you have any membership openings in the DAC? If so, I'm just going to put a plug out there for members that are watching, reach out to you or Trudy or any of the board members.
So Lauren Walker is the membership chair.
Yep.
She is starting to look to see what openings that we have. I know there will be a few openings, but I don't know specifically what there are. There's probably not a lot, but there will be.
But this is the time of the year, usually we are looking for DAC chair, DAC membership vacancies to fill it, or DAC subcommittee accreditation budget, MLO subcommittee also. So I'm just going to put the word out there to anybody that is interested in serving one of those subcommittees.
Right, so those memberships will be approved in the fall too, though. So, I mean, I don't know that we're actively looking right this minute because it's time. So, you know, I'm sure in August it will be a full push to try to have a full roster for all of those committees when I think it gets approved in September or October.
They can just reach out to you at their convenience over the summer.
They can reach out to me, they can continue to reach out to me or Trudy or Lauren.
Okay.
The doc site still has my name on it, so once that gets updated, it will be Mary.
Roll call, please.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott? Aye.
The ayes have it. So we have a new DAC chair in Ms. Marian Clausen. Welcome, and we look forward to working with you, collaborating with you, working with Superintendent Gall and his team, and hearing your feedback that the DAC has to provide. Director Daniels, the next one, Resolution 2023-42. Can you please read the resolution and make the motion for action item 15?
Resolution 2023-42, recognizing June 18th through 24th, 2023 as Juneteenth holiday observation. Observance. Whereas the Civil War, which raged for 4 years between April 1861 and April 1865, officially ended with the surrender of General Lee to General Grant at Appomattox on April 9, 1865. Still, even after this turning point, many parts of the country remained at war. Whereas Juneteenth commemorates the day freedom was proclaimed to all slaves in the South by Union General Gordon Granger, who arrived in Galveston, Texas, proclaiming the authority of the United States over Texas in the name of then President Andrew Johnson on June 19, 1865, in Galveston, Texas, more than 2.5 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation by President Abraham Lincoln. Whereas in so proclaiming this authority, General Granger declared all acts of the Confederacy null and void and announced slaves were henceforth set free. Whereas, not caring so much as to which day freedom had come, as to the fact that it had come, the freed men and women refer to this day as Juneteenth, which provides the historical reference for Juneteenth, National Freedom Day, also known as Emancipation Day, Emancipation Celebration, Freedom Day, Juneteenth, Independence Day, and Juneteenth. Juneteenth, National Freedom Day, commemorates the June 19, 1865 announcement of the abolition of slavery in the state of Texas and in general the emancipation of all enslaved African Americans throughout the former Confederacy. Whereas during the years immediately following their emancipation, the freed men and women established a tradition of picnics, music, and Thanksgiving, and used the occasion to reflect upon the profound meaning of their freedom. the freedom to choose a life direction, manner of earning a livelihood, and creating a community in which a free people might live with dignity. Whereas Americans of all ethnic backgrounds, creeds, cultures, religions, and countries of origin share in a common love of and respect for freedom, as well as a determination to protect their right to freedom through democratic institutions by which the tenets of freedom are guaranteed and protected. And whereas the Colorado Springs School District 11 Board of Education values and honors the national state of Colorado and City of Colorado Springs Juneteenth ideals in commemoration of America's Second Independence Day observation, the 19th of June, as one which completes the cycle of America's 18th century independence movement initiated with the 4th of July, 1776 Declaration of Independence, and to advance this country's sincere dialogue, the realization of what Juneteenth historically means to all Americans, promoting racial healing, reconciliation, restoration, and justice. Now therefore be it resolved that June 18th through 24th, 2023 is Juneteenth holiday observance. All citizens, regardless of race or ethnic background, are encouraged to experience Juneteenth observation activities. I move that the Board of Education approves Resolution 2023-42, observance of Juneteenth holiday.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any feedback or comments from the board? Paragraph.
Thank you. I just want to note that it's pretty easy to celebrate Juneteenth in Colorado Springs because there is an event that will happen this weekend on the 16th through the 18th in America the Beautiful Park. It is free, but bring some money because there are going to be lots of wonderful things for sale, from baked goods to t-shirts, jewelry, all kinds of things. There is more information at csjuneteenthfestival.com, and so y'all go check it out.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that resolution, Director Daniels. Seeing no further comments, roll call please.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it, the resolution has been adopted. Moving on to the last resolution, that's on the action item, resolution 2023-43, support for economic freedom and impartial classrooms. Director Jorgensen, are you with us? Yes, okay, Director Jorgensen, can you please read the resolution and make the motion for action item F9?
Yes, pleasure. Okay. Resolution 2023-43, support for economic freedom and impartial classrooms. Whereas on April 22nd, 2023, the Colorado Education Association, CEA, passed a resolution condemning capitalism, stating the CEA believes that capitalism inherently exploits children, public schools, land, labor, and resources. Capitalism is the opposition to fully addressing systemic racism, the school-to-prison pipeline, climate change, patriarchy, gender and LGBTQ disparities, education inequality, and income inequality. And whereas the Colorado Springs School District 11 Board of Education has heard from parents and other community members expressing strong disapproval of the CEA's resolution and concern about its impact on the education of children in classrooms, and whereas the D11 Board of Education wants to assure the public that CEA's position does not represent the board's or the district's point of view, and that the board considers the vilification of capitalism to be grossly incorrect. And whereas the D11 board is committed to providing impartial classrooms free of ideological and political advocacy, whereas the D11 board believes that far from exploiting children in public schools, capitalism is the engine that generates the resources on which public schools and teachers' salaries depend. And whereas the D11 board recognizes that capitalism rewards individual efforts and has lifted enormous numbers of people out of poverty, both in the United States and around the world. And whereas the D11 board holds that capitalism is a mighty force for economic prosperity, the preservation of liberty, and the protection of private property rights, therefore be it resolved that the Colorado Springs School District 11 Board of Education strongly rejects the CEA resolution, recognizes that capitalism has done immeasurably more than any other economic system in history to advance human prosperity, and assures parents of the district's commitment to providing students neutral learning environments that prioritize academic achievement. The board further directs the superintendent to continue to promote classroom practices in the district that align with the commitments expressed in this resolution.
You need to make the motion.
One moment. So the Board of Education approves Resolution 2023-43, support for economic freedom and impartial classrooms.
Moved and seconded by several board members. Okay, I know, Jason, that you took some time in crafting that resolution too, and you've got your hand up, so I will go to you first.
Yeah, just a few personal comments that I, wanted to share tonight. So many thoughts since I first learned about this, but I kind of put it into words here. So this proposition and its underlying message, it just conveys through its membership that it's just anti-American. It promotes a Marxist agenda with silent and overt instruction on socialist ideas intended for our schools through the teachers union. Public employees get raises from tax increases, not productivity. Productivity generates income, and that is capitalism. It's just plain and simple. What I find concerning is that as a board member, I reached out to learn more about this, and I heard nothing back from the CEA, nor is it publicly posted anywhere from my review on their website. It's like a login type thing where you have to be a member to even see this stuff. Our own Democratic Governor Jared Polis criticized the union recently on America's Newsroom, saying, "What a bizarre thing." He said of the union resolution, Polis defended capitalism as the key to a successful education system. He said it's a great economic engine of capitalism that creates the prosperity that funds our schools, and that capitalism keeps teachers' salaries up, funds our schools, and leads to the great prosperity that we have. Lastly, I do know that D11's own CSEA sent 3 delegates to the CEA assembly this year, and I wonder how they voted on this resolution. I wonder if CEA members are even aware this resolution like this passed in assembly and what it implies for public education here in D11. CSEA members know, I'm sure, that a portion of their dues do fund the CEA and the NEA. And if you've enjoyed any level of success in this country, a large portion of that success is due to personal effort, perseverance, and capitalism. Those CSEA members that find this resolution as radical and un-American as I do may wish to consider their continuation of their membership in such an organization. And that is all I have to say.
Any further thoughts or comments from board members? Director Daniels.
Okay, so I'm just curious, this happened in April. How in the world did it come to us in June? And secondly, how does it help with hiring teachers and us staying out of political ideologies that have nothing to do with taking care of the many things that everyone has said has been on our agenda with getting teacher salaries up and making sure our facilities are where they need to be. And as far as what I read, it was listing the things that were bad that was connected to capitalism, but not necessarily saying capitalism was the problem, unless I missed something.
You did.
Because as far as I can tell, what about it with racial injustice and, we had climate change come up and you were totally against that one. So like what exactly are we trying to do if we're trying to be a school board? And who said from up there that we had to do anything? Who said that? Did anybody say we had to do it? I'm just curious, nobody told any district in Colorado they needed to set up a resolution to go against what they have done. And there are other organizations like CASB that have resolutions all the time, and we do nothing as a board. So I'm just curious, why this one? And how is that helping with enrollment and achievement that you guys have fussed about and constantly pounded that no one is going to pass a bond until achievement goes up? How does that help?
Is this rhetorical?
No, Jason, she's got the floor, let her finish speaking,
I'm just curious.
and then we can
How does
respond
it-
back if necessary.
How does it help with what we have to do? And you've been saying for years, you're here for all students. How does this help our students?
Are you done, Director Daniels?
He's ready to talk.
I mean, you can finish your thought and comments. Just want to make sure that you have enough time to speak and express your concerns about this resolution or your opposition or support.
Thank you for asking, because I'm thinking, like, there are organizations you could be a part of that would love you doing this all day long. And yet we keep saying we're not here for this. Where is it in the priorities? I'm trying to make sure I understand. Why is this coming before? CEA doesn't teach students. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, if there's something seriously having a problem with those political things, there are places to go for you to full-fledged blow it up. But we're here for students. How does it fit? Yeah, I guess I'm done.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay, so thank you. I can answer a couple of questions that Director Daniels posed, and then I will turn it over to Director Nelson and Director Bankus for the thing. The first thing that I heard about it was sometime in early May about this resolution that the CEA passed, and I went looking for any type of wording or approval of this resolution. This was adopted apparently in an April 22nd meeting that the CEA had. This is one of the concerns I have. They are an organization, they can adopt what they want, but if they adopt a resolution, let them at least have the backbone or the conviction to stand behind their own resolution. You had to dig into various information, various news organization had to dig into it to find the wording behind this resolution. It took almost a month to even for the CEA to acknowledge that this resolution was passed in their April 22nd meeting. I've still not had the entire wording for that resolution. Ms. Olson looked for it and she wasn't able to find it either. So it is what they adopt is what they adopt, but let them have the conviction to stand behind what they adopt. And that's a constant source of frustration for me, whether it is board members or this. If you stand by an A or no vote, stand by it and have the conviction to stand behind it. This didn't cross as become a part of the board agenda just now. And June, we haven't had public meetings, board meetings in entire month of May. We had a special meeting on May 17th, I think, and after that, this is the first time that the board has had an opportunity to consider this resolution. It is the prerogative falls on the board to adopt any resolution that they choose to. Nobody asked us to adopt a resolution on adopting certain months as Hispanic Heritage Month, but the board feels strongly about that and we adopt a resolution for the same thing. And if enough board members want to adopt a resolution which impacts students in the classroom, and of which we had several public comments today and also several emails, that's up to the board to adopt it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Nelson. Go ahead.
This directly is related to what we do as a school board. When you think teachers union, you think public education. There will be a mass exodus from public schools if school boards do not address this. So as District 11 school board, and to speak to your question about our focus is on enrollment, this is tied directly because we want to communicate to families and parents that we do not align with this ideology. And I know President Mopackham said that it was difficult to find it on their website, but it was very much in the media and publicized, so that wording, that language has been proven out through screenshots of what was there that day at the assembly, and then also again in the media. So we know that this is accurate, what we have in our resolution listed here. And like as a school board and our role to help families and parents feel better about sending their kids to our schools, we absolutely must take a stand and communicate that our classrooms are going to be free of ideologies, ideological advocacy, and something like this. It's very disappointing that the union, who should be focused on students and teaching objectively, is focused on ideological advocacy instead. And so we want to assure our families that that's not District 11's focus. And you know, when you look at what capitalism is, it's the free human mind being able to create, being rewarded for their hard work, and therefore producing wealth. If you look at countries across the world that are full of natural resources and yet most of their population is in poverty, wealth does not come from natural resources. It comes from the use of our minds and the ability to be creative and the freedom that is required rather than force, which you find in other economic institutions that are opposed to capitalism. So that's what's so wonderful about the United States is we have a system that is based on capitalistic ideals. Not fully, we're not actually fully a capitalist society. There are things that we have in place that are opposed to that, but compared to the rest of the world, we have the freest economic system, and you can see the fruit of that. And so for the labor union to take a stand on something such as this is mind-boggling, and I just think that by us approving this resolution, it communicates to parents that their children will be safe in our schools, learning objectively about all economic systems, and one isn't going to be an ideological one such as this that says capitalism inherently exploits children. I mean, that's you mentioned confusion on some of what it says there. I mean, that right there is insane. So I fully support this resolution.
Thank you. Dr. Bankus.
And I thank you for those questions, Director Daniels, because I think other people are thinking about it as well. And when this came up and we brought it for our consideration, I can see the point of view that you put out with we have stayed away from other incidences and other resolutions, and I can see that line of thinking. There are two things that will determine my vote in favor of this resolution, and one is Director Jorgensen, I thank you for bringing to the forefront how important it is for our District 11 graduates from high school having the skills to be able to make financial and economic decisions so they don't end up in deep debt, whether it's school tuitions that they've decided to go to college and incur, whether it's buying a car and they don't understand the interest rates that they are going to be paying if they're not paying attention to the opportunities for finding lower cost loans. That whole bundle of giving our students the skills to be able to determine decisions that they're going to make financially. So we've already talked about economics as a high school class that we want to expose our students to. The second part of my reasoning is that we passed policy that said that we will present unbiased, balanced information, and capitalism is one economic system. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, we lay it out and we give students not only that system to judge or to critically think through, but we also explore in our high school classes other economic systems so that students have the information they need to go out and make reasonable decisions. So for those two reasons, I will vote in favor of this resolution.
Thank you. Dr. Daniels, you're back again.
Okay, thank you, because to Director Nelson's point, countries are impoverished because they have been exploited. People are coming because their countries have been exploited of their resources, and continuously today. I am almost sure they would love to be in their country if they didn't have someone taking it and using it in another country for other people's advantage. This is well documented in historical books. It's in the archives. It's not like it's new information of what has transpired historically. The question is, why does the district, who is saying the district has to adopt this? I didn't hear about any of this until someone decided to bring it to my attention. And as a former teacher, I know you know, nobody is trying to indoctrinate the students. You may come across people in your career path that may have done it, but on a whole, they're wanting fair wages. They want to be paid for their efforts and careers. It's been, wasn't that what the IBB was about? I mean, I'm just trying to, okay, this is why I'm gonna vote no, because we're bringing political ideologies to real work that we have to do to help our students, our staff, and our community to work with public education for the greater good. It just listed the connection to capitalism. It did not say we're gonna destroy it. I don't know why we need a resolution to bring division into the community. Oh, I take that back, I know why. I will be voting no.
Thank you. Director Bankus?
And to your point, as I've said, when we take a look at the curriculum that we present to our students and to the general public, we have gotten emails in, either in favor or opposed. We've had speakers speak today. So it has come to our attention, and it's in our purview to make a decision on whether we're going to take a stand or not. And I go back to my 2 points. 1, the economic health and training of our students. And 2, the opportunity for teachers to have the freedom to teach in their classrooms a balanced perspective of economic systems out there. And so I will be voting yes. I call for the vote.
So, hang on. Thank you. I think Superintendent Gall also had something to talk about, and Director Loma hasn't had a chance.
Would you like Director Loma go first?
Director Loma. Director Loma.
Yeah, like I said, when I first heard it, it wasn't so serious it'd be laughable. And why? Well, the union is a major influencer of our students. They represent the lives of a lot of families because people are trusting them to teach their kids. That's one reason why. The irony, I think, is on the day that we made a resolution celebrating the freedom of Juneteenth. Now we want to celebrate our freedom of capitalism, and well, it's apparent that some board members are against it. I just pray that you remember that when it comes time to election, because I don't like having communism in my country. So we reaffirm our freedom through this resolution, because our children need to know where we stand, and to Director Nelson's point, the parents need to know where we stand. Political ideologies, we don't want to bring them in. I said earlier, we want to keep it away. They brought it in. This is the Education Association. This is not the Teamsters Union, which they got their issues. This is the Education Association, who have direct access to all of our kids.
Director Daniels, Director Loma's got the floor.
You
Could
can
you
hear me?
please respect?
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And
I'm
certainly
sorry, I was
Director
on
Loma
my
can hear
radio.
you. I know you've got comments. When you
I
provided your
thought I was
comments, we
under my
respect
breath,
it.
I really did, I really did. Continue on.
Thank you. Director Loma.
Thank you. So they have direct access to vulnerable children, and oftentimes we don't know what they're saying. So this is will sound the alarm to them to be careful what you talk about. So we did not bring this ideology battle into the school district. They did. We just have to push it back, and that's what we're doing. And another irony, union dues are a perfect example of capitalism. I mean, if they, so they want to negotiate, we've been in negotiation, and if they weren't so capitalistic, they wouldn't have walked out of Doherty High School, those capitalist people. How dare they? And that's their union. So this is the system we live in. It's a great system. It's the best system. Is it perfect? Of course not. But it's the best system. I was talking to a gentleman earlier. I think me and Park were having a conversation. And in this country, if you work hard enough, you can do anything. You can work your way out. I came from the ghetto. I was ducking bullets at 12 years old. All my brothers died of drug addicts. My uncles died of violence. It was this country that gave me a route out. Like this capitalist country that gave me a route out. So thank God. And then I'm still like, wow, this is amazing. Director mentioned that people are coming because they're being abused in other countries. Well, yeah, because we're the greatest country. We are the capitalist country. That's why they're coming. They're not fleeing to Russia. They're fleeing here because there is opportunity. This is the land of opportunity. Oh, are you kidding me? So as I sat down, I go, why in the world would the union do something so asinine? Why would they do that? So I really began to evaluate. It is being revealed on a daily basis with data and facts that unions in public education have hurt children. And as that begins to resonate more and more, the union needs to attempt to shift the blame. So they don't want to take the blame for their failures, so they want to blame capitalism. Well, it's not going to work with this Vato Loco. It is not going to work because we're standing here. And again, I say this, I encourage this to be noted because there will be another election. And I challenge those people to see this vote and determine if you want capitalists or you want communists. Because I'm going to support this.
Thank you. First, I'm gonna note what Director Banks commented on, that we already have something that speaks to the impartiality. We recently adopted, for those who don't know, the Parent Partnership Policy, AKB, and it assured parents of impartiality. I wrote down, there was item number 7, objectivity, provide impartial learning environments free of ideological and political advocacy. And in a way, I would think that would even come down to this particular resolution. I don't think we needed to check that box again. Despite claims this evening, the CEA resolution does not promote Marxism or communism. It doesn't even technically condemn capitalism as much as make critical observations. And I'm all for critical thinking, so. The resolution doesn't impact our board or our schools. It does not, as Director Daniels noted, it doesn't call upon CEA members to change how or what they teach. And so it's not really that relevant. And as was noted earlier this evening, we have policy IKM, which speaks, if people think economics is suddenly controversial issue, we have a policy for that. So to capitalism, like various, probably every economic system, it has its benefits and it has some major issues. We've seen price gouging. We know even now there are children working in, migrant children in particular, working across the country in jobs they shouldn't be in. There's even human trafficking. I personally think there's something to the fact that we just celebrated Juneteenth with the resolution, and now we're having a conversation about capitalism. You know, without regulation, it could be a terrible system. So it has its benefits, it has its issues. The resolution before us doesn't take an extra step to condemn the evils that CEA called out in their own resolution. And so that concerns me that the love of capitalism here might be so strong that we see those social ills that they call out as tolerable side effects. So I'm gonna put that out there and let you sit with that. We had 4 or 5 emails about this topic. And to your points of irony, there is so much irony here. Earlier this spring, we had 3 times as many emails and communications about a white supremacist teacher that we had in our own district. And when I asked the board for a resolution opposing white supremacy, and I've spoken to this before, if you don't, to your points, if you don't stand against it, maybe you're standing for it. So the board felt at that time it was simply enough to make statements from the board dais against white supremacy. But here, it's not enough for us to make observations that capitalism might have some benefits and it might have some issues, but no, we need a resolution. And I want to remind you of the words that were said here. Well, if we adopt that resolution, we might need a resolution for so many other topics. It's a slippery slope that was commented about what might come next. So to Director Daniel's points, I am in agreement. This resolution is not in support of our Board of Education priorities. It does not support student growth or achievement, nor enrollment. Our policies are clear. I don't think we need something else. Certainly, capitalism does not need me, and I don't think it needs this board to defend it. That's it. And I'm going to second the call to question, or call for vote.
Okay, I'm just giving each board member the opportunity to talk at least once
Thank you.
before we call the things. Director Luna and Director
I appreciate it.
Art didn't have the time to at least provide that feedback. And Superintendent Gall, you had something to this, and I haven't made my comment yet, and so I'm going to defer to you,
We
Superintendent
can
Gall.
vote now. I'm happy to let the superintendent sing, but Robert's rules says we do need to vote on calling the question.
Okay,
Who called, I missed who called the question.
I think
Julie
Se-
did. Well,
Director Bankus
first
did.
Director Bankus did, but then you got a turn to talk. So I
Yeah.
think we should let,
That's kind of out of order, when you just cut everybody off after you said your piece. You gotta let them talk.
I think
Yeah.
President Mulcahy should have a turn.
Okay, let me go first, and then I will turn it over to.
I'll let you vote, and because you all make policy, and then I'll make my comment.
That's fine. So I will finish with my comments out here and address some of the concerns that were brought up out
Point of
here
order.
too.
We have, she moved, I seconded, that means the question. My apologies to
No,
you.
but you talked after she.
Okay,
I
okay,
know.
let's call.
So I will retract my second.
Okay, then, thank you. If you want to call the motion about
I
the
recall.
thing, that's fine. I
She
can make-
retracted her second, because she
Thank you.
talked after she called the question. She shouldn't have talked.
She got an opportunity to talk, and if I needed to say something to say which way I'm going to support this, I don't get an opportunity to talk. That's what I heard at this time.
I apologize. I had not realized that you had not spoken yet.
Thank you.
And that is why I seconded the question when I
Okay,
did.
perfect, thank you. Okay, I gave considerable thought about this resolution when Director Jenkins brought this to the table last week, and then the wording on the resolution that came out through this. And this does have relevance for us as school board directors, because this is coming from CEA, which is the Teachers Association, and they claimed even in their resolution that they speak for the 39,000 teachers that represent them. So is this a reflection of 39,000 teachers' views? Do they know about it? That's what they put out in this resolution, that they are speaking for 39,000 teachers. And I'm sure a vast majority of those, some of those teachers at least represent District 11. Those are the concerns that were expressed by our parents out here, asking the board to address that and say, is this going to impact classroom education in our schools? We have policies in place, but this was something that was egregious enough that the board had to address, in my opinion, because this impacts teachers in our classrooms, okay? And when they call out and say capitalism exploits children in public schools, and capitalism is the economic system that funds our public schools and provides free public education for all our students and pays our teacher salary and our staff salary, and they are going against it, which even Governor Polis called bizarre and did not know why they would take such a stance on it. It behooves the school board, if this resolution was brought in front of it, to take a stance on it. Personally, I'm an immigrant that came to this country, and I came here not because my country was exploited and that's what I was coming here. I came here because this country was the land of opportunity that you talked about. This country had the economic freedom where if I, as an individual or any individual, has the willingness and the ability not to blame the system, but to go and use your individual effort to make a living, this country provides you that opportunity. That is what this country is fundamentally based on, and when you have a resolution that opposes it, I am going to support the resolution that is there in front of us. With that, I'm going to call for a vote on this resolution.
Did you want to let the superintendent speak to it?
After the vote is taken.
You guys called for the vote, so procedurally, I don't think I should say anything, and you should vote, and then I'll make my
And then
comments.
that's what I meant. Go ahead, call the vote.
Director Venkis?
Aye.
Director Daniels?
No.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
No.
The resolution passes 5-2. I know Mr. Kaiser asked for a 7-0 vote. Unfortunately, you didn't get that. It's a 5-2, still the resolution passes. Superintendent Gall.
First of all, I want to appreciate the language in the title of an impartial classrooms. My job as a superintendent is to implement policy of the board. And while we do have in policy writing the language impartial classrooms, and we passed further expectations of that with our staff conduct, policy and regulation, this is an issue that has been forced upon us. And so the decision of why the board has to act is not the board's willingness to act, it's CEA forcing the hand of the board. CEA is the parent organization of our primary labor representation. And I can tell you in my first year here as superintendent, having gone through IBB, the influence of CEA over CSEA and the influence of CSEA as the sole representation of all of our teachers in negotiation is real. It is there for a reason, and I don't counter on whether it should be there. But the expectation that CEA can make this type of resolution and not have that trickle down through CSEA, who was absent from tonight's meeting with any representation for the entirety of this meeting, sends a very clear message that we need to ensure that impartiality is defended to ensure that our children can develop the critical thinking skills and not believe that there is impartiality as there is partiality happening. We enter every day knowing that our 1,800 teachers are impartial professionals and committed to our shared goals of student achievement. The absence of CSEA in tonight's meeting and the clear positioning of CEA to be counter of the very things that have founded the success of anyone at this table. Every one of us has grown up in a capitalistic economy. No single one of us has lived within a socialist or communist economy. and the fact that the very fundamental piece of capitalism is supply and demand. The compensation bargaining that we did this year for our teachers, for our ESPs and our executive professionals was based upon us making targeted raises in the area of greatest need. That is as close to supply and demand economics as I can finally think about. I am concerned that the largest parent organization of our labor representation has so much mission creep that they think that they should be making public statements about economies instead of making statements about strategies to increase student achievement. And furthermore, in a relationship that I am fond of which we have with our working and our labor representation, we seek to be solutions oriented. To have the parent organization of 39,000 teachers in the state of Colorado offer only observation of what they do not like without offering an alternative is the very problem that we have politically. So I applaud the board for voting for this resolution to make a very clear statement that the Colorado Springs District 11 is about giving our kids the access and the skills to be critical thinkers, to make their own decisions, and to not be influenced by outside parent organizations who aren't strong enough to actually then stand up and defend their rights.
Okay, thank you. There are no non-action items. Thank you for your comment. Future agenda items, request for new items from board discussions, tasks. I'm going to look at the board. We are at the end of the school year. If you have any specific requests, I do see Director Art. Do you have any requests?
In the past, our financial department or CFO has offered us a comparison of our district to other districts in terms of positions. What percentage of staff are admin, what percentage are teachers, what percentage are ESP. And I wondered about, now that we've got the budget a little bit settled, maybe when we come back in the summer, we could have that information. I wonder if fellow board members would be interested in that. We are often criticized about being top-heavy, and that kind of information gives us a resource to push back or at least pay attention in comparison to other districts. In some districts, it's more apples to apples. Some it's apples to oranges, in terms of comparison. But I would like to propose that we, as a district, request that for early fall.
Are you saying within our district, or are you saying a comparison amongst districts?
So it does take a little bit of extra work because it would list ours, presumably with the support of HR. So it will list our numbers, but usually there was a call out to other districts to get that information from them as well. And it allows a comparison. And maybe August won't work but maybe September will. But I would be interested in seeing that as, again, a comparison between districts.
Sounds good. I will ask the board about that, but you said that this has been a practice that has happened in several years in the past?
Glenn did it for us at least a couple of times.
Okay. I don't remember in the time that I've been on the board. I've seen maybe how many ESP, exec pro, and internally, but I've not seen that kind of comparison document going between the school districts. Maybe I'm mistaken.
And how far do you want to go deep? All teachers, all personnel, that's a lot, that could be a lot of digging.
Right, but I haven't seen that kind of, if you have such a document in the past in your purview, could you send one to the board and also to Dr. Comfort? He's there, so he is aware of what you are asking for from the past. Okay, thank you. Is this a task that the board is interested in tasking to know this type of comparison between District 11 and other surrounding districts?
Okay.
Okay, I see 4 thumbs up, so, okay.
Well, I'll wait first for a source document.
Yep, Director Art is going to provide us a source document. Okay, any further requests? Okay, seeing none, this is the last board meeting for this academic year, 2023-24. So I don't have calendar review at this point in time. There is
there is, what Ms. Olson pointed to me was that the board calendar calls for a meeting on June 21st and 28th.
We're posted on the 21st, a regular meeting.
Okay, is the board comfortable with not having, by a show of thumbs up, not having one on 21st and 28th? Great. So we don't have one on the 21st and the 28th. The next work session is now scheduled tentatively on August 2nd. That would be the first week up there, and then the board meeting on August 9th. I know that it's also, when we return back, it'll be election, and the board may have to adopt some resolutions for those elections. If I, after talking to Chief Bailey, who's not here today, if I need to keep the board informed of anything in that regard, I will let you know.
Oh, you're talking about election law?
If the board has to adopt any type of resolution to put a ballot issue on the board, on the ballot,
Okay.
even appointing election officers and things of that nature, sometimes we do that. I'm not sure what it is, but
Okay.
I will keep the board informed. But right now, we don't need to do anything in the month of July, June and July. So I wish the board some time off. I hope this has been a long and challenging year in the sense that we have accomplished a lot, and board meetings have often run 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. And I appreciate Superintendent Gall in his first year also providing all the necessary information to the board and all the team members who have sometimes stayed long hours here answering board questions and providing feedback. With that, may I have a motion?
I move in order to
Moved and seconded, roll call please.
Director Bankus?
Aye.
Director Daniels?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Loma?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson? Aye. Director Ott? Aye.
The ayes have it. We are officially adjourned at 9:42 p.m.